right. What up, everybody?
All right, I got
Man, we here. It's another Saturday, man. Yo, your boys getting on my nerves. Well, not actually. It's not even your boys. The Chiefs, I'm cool with. It's the mention of that other person who's now interested in the Chiefs. That shit is getting annoying, and I understand they doing it because.
Oh, yeah. I know you talking about the damn Swifties.
Yeah. We're not going to even say the name because it's wild. The NFL is really looking at it like, yo, we could grow our audience by like 7%.
And I'm like, please, just let her just fucking fade away. I don't want to so tired of seeing that woman.
I know. Did you see how the NFL? Did you see the thing that NFL had told their partners like CBS, Fox, ABC to air commercials about her tour for free?
Man, it's stuff that's going on. It's a lot that's going on. Throw a shout out to everybody out there. I'm sorry for us being delayed. I had hell trying to get on, and I'm still like logging into stuff because for some reason my system was all jacked up. I couldn't get in here. My audio was jacked up. My visuals, I had to go back and change my settings on the computer. Now I'm having to log back into Rockfin right now. Now I'm logging back into Twitter, and so that's what took me a little bit delayed. Chris was here actually.
Mm-hmm.
He was waiting on me.
Yeah,
in fact, I saw you were here like 10 minutes early.
I was. Okay, good. As long as you know that, I was around.
Because you know I typically rag you. I'll be like, look at Chris. He said he
exactly
wants to go early and his ass gonna be late.
Exactly. But now it's like, all right, yo, he was here ready.
Oh yeah, he was here ready and my shit was fucking up. But shout out, I see Ambassador Scorpio, all the way from Buenos Aires. And we got
from Argentina,
Warren. We're gonna talk about that tweet. We're gonna definitely talk about that tweet. I just thought about it. Lucy's from there also. So we'll have Blue Moon Red Wine joining us. She'll be probably in probably sometime soon.
At some point.
We're running a little bit late. I see Kat is in the building. Let's see some of these comments because I got the feeling we're gonna have a lot of stuff to get into and probably won't be able to interact as much as we typically will. Living in the times of nonstop big news, yeah, and I think it's going to get crazier. Baba, your question there, I will answer it in a minute when we get deeper into that subject. Let me see, and let's just Geography Pro already reached out to us. Attack from Hamas, being surprised the IDF is highly sus. I'm GeoPro. I'm gonna come back to this. Please remind me. I'm gonna come back to this because me and Chris were talking about this before the show even started up. Because I don't want to. Because I know if we jump into the whole Hamas and Israel stuff right away, there's a lot of other stories that we won't touch on, which I definitely want to talk about. I'm not saying that these stories are more important or less important, but it's stuff that I saw this weekend that I want to weigh in on. So, of course, so you guys know, we will be talking about Israel at war. I guess I could throw this one out there real quick. Cornel West has decided to run independent, and
so he's no longer affiliated with the Green Party.
Correct. Yeah.
So let's just give people a real quick recap. Let's give him a real quick recap. He was on the People's Party for like 6 hours. He was in the Green Party for like 6 weeks, and now he's independent. So, shout out to Mr. West. Good luck in your endeavors. I hope you raise as much money as you possibly can, and then I hope you just enjoy life because you're not going to win. I hate to be that guy, but I'm just saying.
You stole my punchline. because I was gonna say this also, and it's the same thing with I guess more or less I wanted to say this because there's so many in well, I'll say viewers of alternative media. I'm not even gonna necessarily put it on all the hosts, which I think some of you could put on the hosts. A lot of them keep pushing this. Well, everybody just needs to run independent. Here's what you guys don't understand. You people who feel like it's better to run independent completely, there's so much extra shit you have to do if you just run independent. It's the level of hurdles increased by tenfold if you just run independent. So if you are not somebody who is already wealthy and already connected and already have a mass group of people who are going to run around and get all these signatures for you in all these different states within the right times, you're basically telling somebody to, I mean, I put it this way. What that tells me is you guys are more following your heart and it sounds good. But the actual act of getting yourself elected that way is damn near impossible. And
Yes,
what that just tells me is that we have a lot of people who have good intentions in this space, but they do not understand what it takes to actually become an elected official, for one. And for two, to get to elected official of that level. But, you know, have fun, Dr. West. Good luck. You're going to win the victory of you're going to win the victory of the crowd being happy with what you're doing, but you're going to lose the overall war of actually getting there and having a chance to be competitive and doing anything. That's just the way politics works.
He's going to win E for effort. He's going to win E for effort, HT for hard trying, and that's about it. You know what I mean?
That's about
he'll
it.
Get maybe a participation. Yeah, he'll get a participation trophy. And again, look, would I love to see Cornel West actually have a shot at this thing? Yeah, sure. It would be good to see, right? But we have to be, we got to be realistic about it. It costs a lot of money to get on the ballot in each of these states. You need a team, at least you need a team of, I would assume, at least 10 to 15 people in every state where you're going to compete at. So the fact that, hey, what's up, Lucy? But the fact that I don't see that, it's tough.
Oh, and we have our
sorry.
Sorry, okay. I thought you were ready by that. Our special guest.
I'm so sorry I'm late. I actually have an excuse. I was going to a meeting, and it just kind of ran a little later than I thought it would. But you guys know the Schiller Institute? It's like the organization that there's like a lot of rumors about, and people get. So they're trying to push this thing where it's like for the United States to join BRICS. See? Time for BRICS for the U.S. to join BRICS. I don't know what you guys think, but they like went on this like they sent a bunch of people to China to do kind of like a diplomacy. It was like a diplomacy trip, but they can't find anybody from the actual government to like go to China to go on this diplomacy trip. So basically, because like the U.S. government is like hungry for war. So they just had like a bunch of people from the Schiller Institute, and Jose and Keenan went. You guys know Jose and Keenan, and a bunch of other like people from New York. Just people that were interested in going, and it was pretty cool. Like they did a presentation of like different infrastructure projects that they're doing in China. Like water infrastructure and this like urban. They're doing a lot of cool stuff that we should be doing here, but we're not doing anything here.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, like, what do you think about the U.S. joining BRICS?
I can't hear you for some reason.
My volume okay?
Is it me?
My volume okay?
Can you hear me okay?
Oh.
Can you hear Chris? Uh-oh.
Maybe I should take my mic off. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us now?
Yes, yes. Could you hear me that entire time or no?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should take my mic off. Alright, can you hear me?
Can you hear us now?
Yes. Could you hear me that entire
No, I
time or no?
have
No, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should take my mic off. Alright, can you hear me?
Can you hear us now?
Yes. Could you hear me that entire
No,
time
I
or no?
No, I have
What's going on?
It's like a complete loop.
Yes. Could you hear me that entire time or no? Are you
Someone has it open in another window.
I do. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's
Okay,
why.
there we go. So I was wondering, like, what do you think? I think
Still
still
there.
She's got two links open. It's her phone. But I was wondering, like, what do you think about the U.S. joining BRICS? How would that work?
I don't know, but I think it's a good idea because it's like I just feel like everything from the media and the government is so negative. It's like, everybody is the enemy. It's one thing when you have one enemy, and it's just like every day a new country is the enemy. So like, first it was like the war on terror, with the Muslim world or, whatever. Then it's now they want to invade Mexico. Then they want to they want war with Russia, also Taiwan, they want to do the Taiwan. So it's just like, at some point, it's like when everyone's the problem, everyone else is the problem is you, So, like, I feel that's where we are at this moment in time. It says echo coming from all directions. Okay.
No,
Is it better? Okay.
I guess it's echoing.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to join BRICS because we might very soon have like a serious currency problem, which I don't know like how people are gonna react. Like people in the U.S. are still talking about reparations for descendants of slaves, cash reparations. If the dollar blows up, like, you're going to have to find a way to do that without it being cash because we're going to have, like, runaway inflation or something. So, I think it would be good to join some kind of economic bloc and not be so confrontational with the rest of the world. Like, we don't have to agree on everything, but it makes it a little bit better to cooperate with other countries, like economically. Hamza says BRICS is not so obvious establishment. They are pro-Israel too. They're not like,
I don't know about that.
they're not pro-Israel. They're just it is true that they don't talk about like the Israel-Palestine issue as much, like when they're trying to promote BRICS, but that's because they want as many countries as possible to join, and they know that like the U.S. has like a different ideological alignment. They're aligned with the West, and the West. So like if you want people to join, you want them to join under the idea of having like economic cooperation. It's not so much about like whether you're in the Christian world or the Muslim world or like people get really.
Well, I think the problem with the U.S. joining BRICS is I think the point of BRICS is they're trying to separate themselves from the U.S.
Yes, yeah, and well, the thing is like, the point of BRICS is to have an economic bloc and like an alternative economic system. For mutual cooperation. Like, that's how I understand it. And to push de-dollarization to a certain extent, which would help many countries in the world. Now you're not like attacking Israel ideologically in terms of like but you're saying like Israel. Well, who funds them? It's the United States and it's the dollar actually. So if you are supporting an alternative economic system, then you're taking away power from that, like the financing mechanism. You're not saying like you're not saying anything against Israel, whatever, but you're making the financial structure that helps that happen like less powerful, which I think is a good thing. I don't know.
What's your thoughts, Chris? He has a little delay.
So in terms of like bricks, I mean, it's brand new. Not too much. Hold on, I'm hearing. Lucy, I'm gonna mute you for now because I'm hearing an echo. All right. So let me see. Okay, yeah. See, I don't have the echo anymore. All right, perfect. With that being said, BRICS is, how should I say? It's a structure that looks good. It sounds good, because the United States, England, and the usual players are not leading it. However, the finances behind it, as Hamza has been telling us for weeks now, a lot of the money and a lot of the idea behind this was spawned in a conference room, probably at some JP Morgan Chase location. You know what I mean? So with that being said, we kind of just have to watch to see how this thing plays out. I mean, I guess we can speculate all we want, but I don't think this is I don't think BRICS as it's constructed is going to stand in total and pure opposition to the United States and its allies. If anything, they're going to be working in conjunction with each other. The bloc will work with the quote West, as we always see. So that's something that we need to just monitor as this thing develops. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think I don't think it's what some people think it will be. I don't think it's the joining of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and the rest of them directly in opposition to the United States and the West at large. I just don't see them. I just don't see them bucking heads like that. The businesses all the countries conduct is so intertwined.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'll stay alone in my camp of believing that economically it is a way to kind of separate themselves so that they could try to become more of instead of having a single polar world, to have a multipolar world where they don't feel like they're under the tier of the West. And as long as things are the way they are, it'll always be this kind of Western hegemony. And I think the only way with BRICS is the only way they can get out from under that. Now, I hear what Hamza says. I disagree with it. And the reason why I disagree is bankers do not have allegiance to a country. When it comes down to it, they really don't give a shit. Billionaires really don't give a shit. They'll hop to another country in a heartbeat. And so what's going on with the country itself, as far as the government and the people who are pulling the strings in the government, is separate from people who are profiting and benefiting off of a government. So it can be somebody at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Chase, and they can watch this. They will literally bet on this country to fail and jump ship. And so it's not like, they really give two shits what happens to the U.S. as long as they're still good themselves individually. I do not think none of these people are patriotic or kind of have any government's interest in mind. It's all about which money play can we back. What your thoughts, Lucy?
I think well, I think there's like a very optimistic way of viewing this, and there's a very negative way of viewing this, and the truth is like somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that BRICS plus, whatever they're calling it now, I don't think it's going to replace like local struggles, like the local Black Power struggle or the local Palestinian whatever, the local indigenous movements, like the local unions, all of that. I don't think it replaces any of that. I just think but I also think like we need to be realistic. Like if BRICS wasn't like a threat to the current world order, would they be putting this like clown libertarian candidate in Argentina right now to do this like fake libertarian revolution? They're terrified that Argentina's gonna join BRICS. They're terrified. Like India, for example, they just coerced India, and India like got Algeria off of BRICS. Algeria wanted to join, and India said no. So they're pulling every string with like the weaker countries. That would be like India, for example. India's like very kind of tied to the U.S., so they want to keep their like relationships with tech or whatever. So the U.S. kind of plays with India because and kind of negotiates with India to get like some of these other countries that want to join, so like the U.S. is pulling those strings. So if the U.S. like were to join BRICS, first of all, we could avoid, because like right now it's like more and more countries are kind of allying against us because they don't trust us, because we impose our currency through force. The petrodollar it's imposed through force. The whole thing that happened in Libya, whatever. If enough people like just join BRICS, like if everybody joins BRICS and we don't join BRICS, then we're gonna be alone like on our island, and we're gonna suffer like a currency devaluation. And I don't think Americans are prepared for a like a total fucking currency devaluation. Like I've talked about this, like what happened in Argentina when I went in 2000. I only lived there for a year, but it was like right a year after like one of the biggest currency devaluations in the world. There were 5 simultaneous currencies there at the time. It was crazy. There was like the dollar, there was the peso, there was the patacon, which was like another type of currency that they used to like pay teachers. They had like barter system, and it's like something else that I don't even remember. So, like government payments. It was like like little notes or something, it was crazy. And then people were like stealing copper from like the lining of the trains of like the suburban rail in order to melt it, because you can turn copper into money quickly. So like it was just like total chaos, like really really chaos, like like people trying to do anything to like get their hands on some kind of like precious metal, like copper was like a big one, in order to resell for money to like pay for food, so I like we have a lot of problems here, but I don't think people are taking it seriously in terms of like what would happen here if we had that kind of like currency devaluation. If we don't take it seriously that like the world is moving towards BRICS, and we should probably move towards BRICS, because if we have a problem, if we keep like threatening other countries and other countries actually are able to successfully form a bloc where they're like, okay, you're not part of BRICS, but the world is now on the UN or whatever. Like, you can have your moral high ground or whatever about saying, like, okay, I don't want to be on the digital UN because China is authoritarian or whatever. But if the world moves in that direction and our currency goes into the shitter and everybody else is on the digital UN and we haven't cooperated at all, then this is like a real problem, It's like, and it could really hurt our standard of living. So, I'm not saying like BRICS is like the revolution or anything like that. I'm just saying like, like you want to maintain your economy at a certain level so like people don't really suffer. Like, so it's like, I don't know.
No, I get your intentions definitely. I don't fault anybody for trying to like protect their quality of life and what's going on, and protect the innocent people who are stuck in the middle of this situation. I just look at what I see the powers that be above, and I think that they're so bullheaded in the direction and course that they're going, that because most of them are so insulated to a level, that they're willing to be reckless with hundreds of millions of people's lives, billions of people's lives, actually. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And there's people that, yes, there's people like Seb Solomon, for example. She's always like doing all this research on cryptocurrency and like, and she's right. You know, there are a lot of nefarious things that come with cryptocurrency, and you know, like all of these new digital currencies that you know, kind of like reap a lot of control over people's lives because they want to do like social credits, all of this stuff, right? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that that's not true. I think like it would be better to have cash, you know, because cash is non-traceable and it gives you like more independence. Like, you know, it allows you to escape taxation a little bit, especially if you're, you know, you don't have that much money. But you know, I still think it's like, my position is a little bit more like in the middle, I guess, because even though I do think the whole social credit score thing is very scary, like I've been to China and I don't see it as the authoritarian nightmare that people see it from afar. Like I think it's a country that has problems. I don't agree with everything they say. I don't even agree with like you know, I mean, China, it's leadered by the Chinese Communist Party, right? And if you talk about religion, for example, in China, like they don't want to hear it because it's like not allowed to like talk about that publicly. So like there's some stuff that weirded me out, you know, when I was there. Like I believe in religious freedom, so technically I'm not a communist. That makes me not a communist. Like well, by the book.
I don't think they're communist. I don't actually believe that they're communist.
Yeah, I think they have like a mixed. They have like a mixed system, right? I mean, there probably isn't a country in the world at this point that doesn't have somewhat of a mixed system. Even like Cuba, like, you know, they're communist, but like people say they're not communists and that they're kind of ruled by the dollar. So, like, I think it would be better to not be communist and not be ruled by the dollar than to be Cuba and be ruled by the dollar, you know? Yeah. But I don't know. I really think like the priority for me, maybe I'm just being basic, but the priority for me is just like stop sanctioning people, you know, and see if you can like find some kind of economic cooperation. Like you don't have to agree with everything. But if they don't want BRICS to rise, like if they're doing everything they can to like stop it, like I do think that there is some element of where like BRICS is really like confronting the WF. It's basically like BRICS or the World Economic Forum, and BRICS is pushing like ideas about bringing infrastructure to different countries, development, and the World Economic Forum is like pushing ideas about how climate change is going to end the world in 7 years. They're like trying to convince teenagers, like I'm not even joking, like they're trying to convince teenagers that the world will end in 7 years so that they have to like not have children, so that you know, the rich can keep like polluting and doing their private jets, and they just want to like depopulate the world. And this is not a joke. Like they have like Malthusian ideology. They want to convince people that, you know, to just like decarbonize, and you are the carbon, like like you are the carbon that they want to decarbonize.
No, I agree. I mean, Well, this is what I've kind of come to theologically. I don't want to say theologically. I'll say ideologically. When people talk about communism, I do not believe that there is actually any form of real communism in the world on a government level, and I don't think that there ever actually has been, because when you go down to the full understanding of actually what communism is, communism. One of the prerequisites for communism is equality. If you're not all equal, then how can you be a truly communist government? If you're allowed to have millionaires and billionaires and have poverty, how are you still a communist government? If the means of production are not completely controlled by the government, then how are you actually a communist? And what typically happens is, even if you have a country where you have they meet these prerequisites, what happens is you have to have a leader, and you have to have like people who lead certain areas, especially as you scale that up to a whole country or a nation. So that means you're going to have people who are treated differently, i.e. protection details. People are going to have to serve them their food and all that, and all of these different things while they manage all these governmental tasks. They're going to have to be private jets to fly around and keep up with other dignitaries and all that. So at that point, that's when you start. I find that it would be virtually impossible to get to a point where you still maintain, what the fundamentals of what being a communist is, and the government, and operating in this modern day and age. I mean, I feel like communism only works on a small scale, and it stays communism. What I think people confuse as communism a lot of times is having a very strong safety net. And I feel like, and I believe honestly that the only governments that work fully properly and can take care of the impoverished and give people opportunities for growth and development, and everybody kind of makes out happy, is you have to have mixed economies. And so you have to have some form of regulated capitalism. And that's where, like, I find a lot of people in alternative media, they get this, just down with capitalism. For one, there's literally like 10 different versions of what capitalism is. I mean, and so what we're dealing with, what they mean, I believe, is they're talking about predatory capitalism or laissez-faire capitalism with very little regulation from the government. Whereas if you had mercantilism, when you go back to barter and trade, all of those are forms of capitalism. I mean, Lucy speaking, go ahead. There you go.
Yeah, like I guess I agree with you. I'd call it vulture capitalism, or something like that. Like, I wouldn't call it like disaster capitalism. That's like what disaster capitalism. But I've never even called myself a socialist. Like, people think I am because I don't know. I guess maybe my views align that way, so they think like. But I've always been careful to not call myself a communist or a socialist, because I don't think I'm either. Like, when I went to China, it was I saw the communist kind of ideology around religion and stuff like that. I didn't agree with that. And then there's a lot of stuff that I feel like it's very ideological that I don't agree with. For example, a lot of the stuff around small businesses, like a lot of the narratives around small businesses, that even the democratic socialists and progressives in Push in New York, I do not agree with. Like, for example, let me close my door. Sorry. One of the things that I've noticed, kind of really drives me crazy is that a lot of the progressives, for example, they're always raise the minimum wage, and they put an arbitrary minimum wage, which whether it's $15 or $25, they'll choose an arbitrary thing, and then they're all the small businesses have to pay this wage, right? they're not doing anything to address the costs of small businesses or like to minimize the commercial rent. They're just saying all the businesses have to pay this wage, whether it's like Amazon or a small business. Well, what are you doing? You're like making these small businesses go bankrupt, basically because of your progressive ideology. So like a lot of small businesses are run on like practically free family labor, you know, or you know like low wages for people that can't get a job that's like more in the system, I guess, like in the formal system of like government jobs or like official jobs or whatever. And that's how a lot of small businesses are run. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. But basically, like, I feel like all progressives do, and a lot of like democratic socialists or all of these people, is they just capitalize on like the resentment between the poor and like the people that earn little small businesses, you know, and then and they go around and they're like, we're gonna raise the minimum wage, blah blah blah, like fuck these small businesses, and then they do fuck the small businesses with their policies, and then the business disappears, and then there's no job with no wage, like forget the minimum wage. So like and I've seen like people that own small businesses and stuff like come out hard against like the progressives and the socialists and all of these people, because these people don't understand the books of these businesses. Like they don't understand how things run, and they're people that work for nonprofits or like government jobs. They have like a hourly salary wage that's like normal. Maybe they have like a 9-to-5 job, and they've never had a business, and they've never like grown up in a little business or whatever. So it like I don't like I'm not really attracted to like those labels for a lot of reasons, like but I do think that like if you wanted to have more small business, for example, you would need some kind of support. Though in some ways China does support people like small businesses this way, like they give them better credit. Like we don't really have really good credit lines for small businesses anymore. They give subsidies. You know, they're doing like economic development corridors where they'll like subsidize commercial rent. So like those are the actual things that you would need to like actually raise the minimum wage, and not just like guilt small businesses and then like drive them into bankruptcy, which is what progressives and democratic socialists and all of these people do in this country. So like I don't know.
Well, what I would argue is most of the people here in America, they don't really know what any of these terms mean. I hate to insult anybody, but most of them don't know what these terms mean and what these actual governmental systems and theories are really actually about when put into practicality. What most people I would describe would be these so-called leftists. They would be progressive populists. That's what they would be. They want they want a change, and they want to see all of these things better. And what they do is they pick certain things that they're from these different ideologies, and then also from people who they listen to, who they believe know what they're talking about, and they're spouting this information. Because like you do have a lot of democratic socialists, true, like you talked about, like the like religion in the Nordic countries, most of them are atheists, but that goes into culture. Whereas they make cultural issues right and left in this country. When you go to certain parts of South America and you have people who are far right capitalists, and you have like I'd say venture capitalists to people who would be actually a real socialist, but both of them are like Catholics, for instance. So socially, they'll all agree on all of these different social issues. But when it comes to the economic issues, it's different. And a lot of Americans don't understand the difference between that. Plus, most of the content creators, let's be honest, most have never run a business. Most have never owned a business. Most have never managed anybody. Most have never been anybody's supervisor. It's all theory. That's where most of this stuff is coming from. Theories on this utopia. And here's the thing. There's no governmental system that is perfect. Every single one, you're going to have some issues and problems. And I don't know. That's just my take on somebody who minored in political science. My understanding of these things.
Yeah, so I don't know. Sorry, what do you think?
Yeah.
You're muted.
Yeah, it's there's a lot to take in with this, right? Sticking with the topic. Um, look, as Marcus said, I fully agree, and I think Chris H may have said it or somebody else said it in the comments. I don't think we've ever seen an example of communism, begin on its own, thrive, and either succeed or fail on its own. I think in every instance in which maybe a civilization tried, maybe it got derailed, but we don't have enough evidence to really say whether or not it would be super successful or not in the face of capitalism as we practice it. Because what we do, we don't even practice capitalism in the traditional sense. We have, we have some just corrupt system, in which friends take care of friends at high levels, and it goes from there. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of nepotism, and it's a lot of we went to college together. Our dads knew each other. Our fathers are in politics, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't even, they're always talking about the market, the market, the market. Well, it's that too is rigged. It's not a pure market in that you're choosing who can even come and sell goods. First of all, if you're selling the same good as somebody else, and you're connected and they're not, well, guess what? Your competition, you just got rid of them, not through anything that you did so great. You were just able to pick up the phone and get your competition removed. So I don't know, we don't practice capitalism the way we do, but whatever the system is here, however it is defined, it's trash. So it has to change at some point. It's not.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. Like I feel like we just have to get to the point where we just admit that it just doesn't work. Like it doesn't matter what the name for it is, or like obviously you're gonna. In every country, they're gonna have different definitions. Like you can keep calling it capitalism if you change it to something that works. I don't care. As long as it's not whatever is going on right now, it doesn't work. So,
well, that's the thing. Most people don't understand what the real government is that we have. The government that we actually have right now, it doesn't matter what system that they will put in. We are practicing under an oligarchy, and we have rich people with a lot of nepotism and a lot of connections, and it's pay to play. If you don't want to join into one of their little clubs, this is what George Carlin was talking about when he said the owners. He kept talking about the owners, and a lot of people, it's weird to me. I hear people use this phrase all the time when they talk about the owners, and then disconnect that and think that they could vote their way out of this or something. I mean, when you first came in, we were talking a little bit about Cornel West is an independent now. I was kind of poking a little bit of fun at it. And it's the same thing with RFK. He's flirting with being independent. None of these people, if they got into, there's for one, there's no way that the powers that be are going to let them get into power. That's the first part. The second part is, if they did so happen to get to the level of being in power, there's going to be some form of cheating that's going to go on to stop them from getting too far. If they do get in there accidentally, guarantee you some kind of dirt from their background is going to come up, and they're going to be pushed out of office, or some accident happens. I mean, all of these people, for one, that we're even seeing, Atra says that they're Boule. West is part of the Boule, and he's what is he? Alpha Kappa Alpha. Kennedy is I can't remember the name of his sword.
Yeah, he's some kind of Greek.
He's part of the Greek, or also. And so most of these people who you see who are running, who are getting a lot of attention, it's because they are part of some kind of organization. And even if they don't get it through the Greek letter organizations, then the Knights of Malta, or they'll go through some other form. There's just so many different ways, or Masonic ties, or whatever. And when it comes down to it, all of these things, all of them are interwoven into basically tools from the elites, from the real elites, the people that we don't see on TV. That's, sorry, my little mini spiel.
No, you're right, because and you've done way more research than I have on these Greek, like the Greek organizations. That stuff is a minefield, and also like the secret societies and all of this crazy, like all of these people are in something that kind of enables them to run. I don't know. What do you think about this Claudia lady? Because like, you know, I see people super optimistic about that, but like I don't trust it either. But you know, like I think I just don't trust anything at this point, because I know that organization, like I've seen a lot of these like kind of lefty organizations in New York, and I feel like they're super infiltrated. It doesn't matter if and like PSL, they work with DSA, and like DSA is like basically Democrats, but they'll have like super fiery language and stuff. I don't know. For me, it's like I'm on the fence about it, because they'll be super fiery, and part of what I've noticed is like that makes me suspicious is the presentation, actually. Like I noticed like Claudia, like if you look at those candidates and you look at AOC, like how she looks when she came up, they just don't look like, they look a little bit polished. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be polished or that you shouldn't look good, but there's something about it that looks a little bit like an ad, a little bit too much like an ad. So I don't really trust them.
You're smart to not trust them. All of these people fall under the same kind of issue. The thing is, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. The thing is, if they are speaking fiery and nobody's pushing back against them, it's because they have no chance. And so they'll let a couple of people get out there and talk. But if you see that they are getting pushed from, like, you know, they're starting to get pushed from mainstream media, they're getting pushed from all kind of other different people, then what's going on is that person is a plant. That person is like an AOC, where if you look back to it and you can see that she interned in a congressperson's office, and you start seeing like these ties back that you didn't see before. I mean, and it's everywhere. It's not only in politics. I mean, look at your favorite shows. Most of the, I'll say probably easily half of the stars that you see on these shows, they're somebody's daughter or somebody's nephew or somebody's cousin. This country is so, you know, Kanye put it on. I'm not going to go there. I'll leave that alone for now. But even with leaving that alone, the level of nepotism that this system runs on and cronyism, if you don't fit into one of these groups, the level for it, the ability for you to break through it, no matter what color you are, you don't make it on sheer talent and ability. You have to have a level of that, and you have to have somebody vouching for you. And you have to show that you have a little bit of flexibility in getting, and you have to have flexibility when the powers that be want you to pipe down a little bit in certain areas. So that's what I say there. Let's see. Next topic that I wanted to go into. Or Chris, did you have anything you want to say on this before we moved on? Okay. All right. Well, I'll throw this quick story out there. I'm not.
We have to research. We have to research the Claudia because, like, that's just like my gut feeling. I don't really know anything about her. So, but.
Oh no, we'll look into her. You trust me, and Lucy. The moment I look through her background, I'm gonna let you know also exactly what I find.
That's part of why, like similar to the small business thing. Like, I feel like it's like, okay, first of all, if you're like a real working class, you know, I mean, I think like the working class is everybody personally that's not super wealthy, but if you want like a janitor or something to run for Congress, like I really feel like people should be more open to unless that person somehow, you know, finds a way to go viral or something. Like, how do you expect that person to do that? So, like, there's a lot of people that I have respect for. I don't remember what this guy's name is, but he's like an Indian guy, and he worked in the stock market for a while, and he got rich. And he's like always exposing, like on mainstream media, like some of the stuff, like the shady shit that goes on in the stock market. I think his name is, it's not Vijay Ramaswamy, who's like a total tool. It's the other one. I don't know if anybody remembers his name, but like people like that.
Oh, you're
people
talking about Dr. Shiva.
No, not Dr. Shiva, but I do like Dr. Shiva too.
Anon something, right?
Yes. And I think it's just like people like that are kind of independently wealthy, but there are people like that kind of rose up on their own, so they kind of have like the time to, you know, be political about something, and they're kind of independently wealthy, so they have the money to like fuck you money, basically, is like what they have. Mm-hmm. So like I'm okay with like running people like that. I'm talking about, yes, the Silicon, yes, Anand Girahandas, that's the guy. Mm-hmm. The Silicon Valley guy. So like I think somebody like that would be good to run, you know, and like a lot of people are against that. They're like, oh, you know, not somebody that has worked in the stock market, but like for me that's fine. Like he's somebody that's like an independent thinker, tells you what's fucked up about the stock market. He's very straightforward about like insider trading and stuff like that. So I don't know. Like I would trust someone like that that's been honest about that more than a Claudia, even, because like this is just too polished in a way that even the red lipstick, it just gives me like very AOC vibes that I know it's just a style, whatever, but I don't
Plus, I just know this country. this country is too racist for that. There's no way they're about to take, for one, two Latinas. No, that's not happening. Sorry.
If I seriously wanted to get, like, maybe like a black person would be better, like, and it would have to be a black American now, because otherwise the FBAs would be like, you know, like, so, you know, like, yeah, we have to work with what we have. We can't just have like these two Latinas. It's not gonna happen. So, you know, and then maybe I would like pair the black guy with like somebody, it's like a white guy like from the South or something. Like that's what will work in this country. Like, what are they doing? I don't know.
Like, I don't know what Cornel West and RFK, if they decided to pair up, then that would be more formidable.
Because, you know, they kind of balance each other out, in, like, you know, make up for each other's weaknesses in a way.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it might. Well,
I just looked.
Sorry, go ahead.
Chris?
I was just looking up that Claudia and Karina girl. Lucy said they look like something, the way they look, it's too polished red lipstick. I'm sorry, to me, this just looks like a campaign for LGBTQ. That's going to be the main focus of their agenda. I'm sorry, that's what it looks like. They can talk about economics and all this shit like that, but at the end of the day, that is what they're going to be talking about. I could be wrong, but I mean, I'm just looking at the picture. They just very much look like the alphabet crew in New York City. We're smarter than you. We know this stuff. You should get behind us. We want to end capitalism. I hear you. Again, go with God. I hope you have a very good fundraiser. I hope you're able to raise as much money as you can, but you two have no shot. You are not going to win. And I'm not being mean and I'm not being an asshole, but we have to be able to look at this through sober eyes, right? And just call it out for what it is. I bet you as soon as they stop talking about socialism and ending capitalism, I bet you the pivot goes to the rights of the alphabet crew. I can see it. I can smell it. So that's all I want to say, because there's a certain part of the left that as they whine about the culture war that the right wing wages on for all our lives, basically, the left is right there with them in the trenches. They're the McCoys to their Hatfields, if you will. They're very much interested in getting into the culture war too. And that is the only leg they have left to stand on, because leftists, Democrats, etc., want to always appear on cultural issues the total opposite of people they deem to be conservative and or right wing. I'm telling you, it's going to come with this group. I'm just going to wait for it, and I'm just going to watch. I think I've seen them once or twice before, but since Lucy referenced them, I went to go ahead and look them up. Yeah, that's what I'm getting from them.
And I know that there are some we have like friends of the show who are like, they work on these different parties and stuff. One thing I know is, good or bad, from being a former volunteer to one of these campaigns and seeing how they work, like from like the organization all the way down through the different levels and how much money literally goes into this, and understanding how much it takes to get ads on TV and at what slots and on versus local news versus national, and how much money really goes into this. In order to run for president, to actually have a solid, serious shot, it cannot just be an online thing. You have to get to those over 55 voters who still got cable, who still watch TV. And they're not online watching streaming apps and seeing all that and getting onto social media. A lot of those who are 60-something voters, who are majority of the voting base, if you are not getting onto a Fox News, a MSNBC, a CNN, a BBC, something like that, they're not even going to hear you. And in order for you to get a commercial onto those kind of networks, you better be bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars, period. And so that's why I'm like, I don't even pay attention to any, like when people start talking, oh, go Green Party and all, I'm like, when I heard what was it, the Red Berets and all that, I'm like, I get it. You guys are all very hopeful, but somebody who's like seen how monstrous some of these Democratic campaigns can be and how much money's funneled in and how many organizers. This ain't even a David and Goliath. This is literally Goliath versus an ant. You're nowhere near a competitor at all to these people. So I don't even like pay most of these people attention.
Yeah, like you have to be famous. So like Cornel West is famous, right? So at least he's famous. There's a chance there. He's like, whether or not you think he's radical enough, whatever, he's famous. And Kennedy is famous because he's a Kennedy. So like, unfortunately, if you want somebody to run independent, You need somebody that's famous, that their name carries them, because you need to separate yourself from the party. You're not going to have the party name behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and PSL, it's not even popular in New York. It's literally only Brooklyn. Like, that whole, like, worker strike... By the way, like, the whole worker strike back thing that Shama Sawan is trying to grow that organization, and she's, like, a member of PSL and DSA. And I know that people want to be hopeful about workers strike back or whatever. But I don't know if you guys remember the clip. It was actually Greg that took that clip because he went to that meeting downtown of Chris Hedges hooking Cornel West up with the Green Party, right? But the thing is, workers strike back, they're not even uptown. Like, you know, like, they're not even uptown. Yeah, it's literally, like, still an organization that is kind of, you know, they do try to make connections, so, like, I'm not trying to diminish what they're trying to do, but at the moment they're still kind of led by, you know, kind of like a little bit the hipsters, you know. I mean, it's kind of unavoidable because, like, those are the people that have time, energy, they're young, maybe they've been to college, whatever, they're interested in social issues. So I'm not saying that that's, like, the end for me. Like, I don't have a problem with people in that way. You know, like, oh, you're middle class. No way. You know, like, I'm middle class. You know? So, you know, like, I don't have a problem with people in that way. But you still have to, like, realize, like, your organization, you know, it's not everywhere in New York. Like, these PSL people, it's like the biggest chapters in Brooklyn. Everything is in Brooklyn in New York, and when, like, and it basically means, like, if everything is in Brooklyn, it's not a working class organization, period. Like, if you're not in Staten Island, the Bronx, Queens, and you're only in Brooklyn, it's not a working class organization. I'm not saying it can't grow, whatever, like, or, you know, I'm not gonna, like, but if you're, like, prioritizing, you know, like, trans rights is, like, the biggest thing on your page, which it was, like, very prominent on the Worker Strike Back website. And, you know, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there's also stuff that, like, people are pointing out about the the new LGBTQ movement or whatever, that's kind of a psyop, because, you know, they're basically, and look at this thing. Actually, this was, like, another event that they're having at the Schiller Institute. It's called, like, Children Have the Right to Innocence. And this is kind of why I like them, because, like, they point things out where like, they don't follow the line of a lot of these social justice, like, organizations that basically just interview people, and it's like the way you feel is the position they take. And it's like, no, like, what's happening with the whole trans rights thing is they're confusing two things. Like, one is the way people feel discriminated in society, right? And that's wrong. Like, you shouldn't be discriminated if you apply to a job, or, you know, you're trying to get health care or whatever. Another thing is how they're actually trying to intervene medically in kids and, like, you know, assign hormones at a very young age. They haven't tested, like, medically the long-term effects of hormones. Like, apparently it's something that causes, like, heart problems in the future. You're gonna have, like, hormonal imbalances if you take, like, estrogen or testosterone from a very young age. Like, you know, problems holding in your pee, like, you know, like, there's a lot of, I don't even know what all of the symptoms are, but, like, you know, like, incontinence, like, this is not, you know, this is not something that's pretty. If you, like, medically, you have to be, like, very careful about intervening in people's natural biology at a young age. So, and there's a teacher, like, they're having this event, if anybody's interested, just, like, send me a message on Twitter or something. Urinary incontinence, yes. There's a teacher that got fired for, like, pointing this out in Queens, and she's, like, she's, like, coming to the event and explaining to people what's actually happening with, like, basically the medical system trying to make money off of this whole LGBT rights. You know, like, so, like, I feel like a lot of this stuff, it's like, where is the money? Like, why aren't people analyzing who's behind this? And, you know, it, like, to me, it's pretty obvious that there seems to be an incentive, like a financial incentive, to medicalize people really young. Like, it's the same thing as, like, in the, you know, 80s, 70s, whatever. The cigarette companies would go to schools, you know, they have like a vending machine with cigarettes because and they wanted to like hook kids early onto cigarettes because it's like proven that if you hook somebody to something when you're a teenager, you're a client for life. And it's very similar with hormones. Like, if you hook somebody on something when you're a teenager or, like, you know, pre-puberty, whatever, you're a client for life. And people don't want to see it because they're just like, oh, you're discriminating against, like, the LGBTs, whatever. It's a big problem, but, like, if we actually acknowledge it, like, we could...
The alpha thing.
Sorry, Chris, what did you say? I didn't hear that at all.
No, she was trying to get all the letters in, you know, that particular group. So I said it's just easier just to say the alphabet crew because
Yeah.
you know, if you add another one, they get offended. If you take one away, they get offended. The alphabet crew, y'all own it. Go ahead, you have it.
Yeah, the alphabets. So I don't know. Like, I like the fact that they seem to take strong positions on that type of stuff. But again, it's, you know, like, they do support BRICS Plus. It's not like an organization that's gonna replace like local unions, you know, like stuff like that. So, or mutual aid, whatever, you know.
Really quick, I was looking real quick. Sorry, Lucy Marcus. I was looking at these the girls' program, right? And I want to share this on the screen. And I asked the question to everybody in the crowd. I just want to know, who else listening operates a business on their own? Just, you know, it'd be interesting to find out. But in the meantime, I just want to put this up, right? So the girls say this is part of their program. This is the first bullet point on their program. It says, seize the biggest 100 corporations, create a new economy for the people. The 100 largest corporations in America should be seized from their billionaire owners and turned into public property. Right there, they're going to lose. Do you know how many people are going to read that statement and say, yo, hold on, wait a second. This is crazy. Again, do you think you're going to do this by electoral politics? If you're going to take someone's business that they have worked, if you're going to take someone's business that they have worked to build up, even though I'm not a fan of Walmart, the Walton family, they didn't start out rich, right? They had to start and build something, and they grew it, and they grew it into something big. Now we're saying, oh, okay, so because you caked up and you guys made a bunch of billions, then now somebody else should be able to come and just snatch that from you and do what they want. That's not going to work, yo. That's not attractive to a lot of people. That is not attractive to a lot of industrious people who do want to get into business, who do want to, you know, their ideas to flourish, et cetera, et cetera. That shit right there is scary talk. And if you talk to anybody who conducts business, who is not just sitting at home on the internet, who works like, you know, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and if they are building something, and then you're saying that, well, hey, if I get to a certain level and I'm very successful, you're going to advocate for somebody else to come and just take my shit because you want to take my profits and do something else with it. That's a very dangerous and very foolish message. I have to be honest. And this is why I say a lot of the left, they need to get outside. They're so busy stuck on theory and reading books and reading comments and clicking buttons and likes and working on their feelings. You guys need to go outside. You need to understand how business works, because a lot of you are not doing that. That's why when you want to take this, okay, let's just say it's you who operate. Let's just say you're in the one of those top 100 companies that you actually grinded out and you got yourself to one of these top 100 companies. You're like, damn, I tried to do everything. I pay my employees well. I provide a good insurance plan for them. You know, I try not to screw them over. I pay them overtime. You know, let's just say you're hitting all the metrics you should as to be considered a good or great employer. So now you're going to say, I'm doing everything right by my workers and my business, and I'm just continue trying to grow my business. You're going to have some politicians or wannabe politicians tell me that, hey, you know what? You did great. You're on this 100 list. We're going to snatch your shit and spend it. Nah, that's not going to work. You have to be extremely targeted if you're talking about things like this. And if anything, if you're going to be talking about seizing anything, at the very least, you should be talking about seizing resources, not people's businesses. That's poor messaging on their part, and I have to just be honest. That's you're not going to grow your movement by telling people, "Hey, I'm going to snatch your business if you're too successful." That shit is crazy. We know there's a lot of nepotism. We know there's a lot of bullshit in the system, but that is not a winning message. And if it's offensive to some people, then I would suggest you go outside and try to start your own business. I suggest you maybe get a job, you know?
Yeah, like the other thing, and I know like you guys will understand because we have like the regional the regional understanding of this, but like a lot of this stuff where people are like the Miami Cubans, for example, that somebody was talking about in the chat. Yes, it's like it is true that some of them were very wealthy, and those are like the more reactionary immigrants that like came to the United States, right? But a lot of them were also like kind of middle class, where they weren't that wealthy, but also not super poor, and kind of over stigmatized by the communist government. So, like in the same way the progressives in the United States, they like to drive a wedge between different groups of people, like between the poor and the small business owners, for example, where they're like, let's raise the minimum wage, and then they like bankrupt the small businesses. A similar thing happened there where, they maligned the middle class, and then there was a brain drain where like professionals went abroad because they're like, if the local government is screwing me over, and they're saying that I'm anti-revolutionary, whatever. There were even people that supported the revolution in Cuba that later didn't support it because like the government maligned them so much that they basically ended up, being like, okay, this is no longer like democratic. What you know what I mean? Like, so you have like a brain drain from these countries, and then if something like that happened in the United States, where you were like, okay, let's just seize the 100 biggest companies. It's like you have to be very careful with somebody like that, because it's like, what are you going to do after you seize it? Are you the people that know how to run the company? Are you going to keep them in there, or like hold a gun to their head and tell them to work? Are they going to leave your country and like say, okay, fuck this place, I have better opportunities in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia or China, and I'm gonna get paid more there? So it's like you do have to learn how the world works and say like, okay, it's not about ideology. Like, yes, you want some kind of safety net, like so that people aren't struggling, but you also don't want to like launch such extreme left ideology into the public that your middle class, your professional, the people that produce, that like run businesses, are gonna be like, fuck this place, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to China, like fuck you guys. So like it's very dangerous, like, because you have to be very careful with that kind of thing. Like, it's not easy, and like there's no right or wrong answers. It's just like I feel like in the U.S. like people are like yeah, like fuck capitalism, like this part of the left, they're just like fuck it, because but it's like, okay, but then watch a national brain drain happen, and you might not say fuck capitalism anymore. You might be like, okay, no, like let's pay them higher wage so that they stay here, and they continue to run the company in a productive manner. So I don't know, like I'm kind of on the fence with this kind of stuff, but I feel like it's more about, maybe I'm just more mild, but I think it's more about creating a social safety net and like improving your infrastructure. Probably joining BRICS Plus so that you can like make sure that your currency stays alive, stuff like that. Then about saying, first of all, if you're gonna seize somebody's company, you shouldn't like put in a publication like I'm gonna seize. Like, you should probably have some kind of military plan, or just shut up, because this is other an empty threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't some little small country. This isn't like Costa Rica or some shit. I mean, no shade on Costa Rica, but you're not. This is the United States government. This is literally the hegemony of the world. The country that punks and bullies most of the whole world and extracts them and goes in, coups whole governments. If you think that you're just going to get a random group of people and they're willingly just going to give this shit over to you, you already don't know what the hell is going on. I mean, keep in mind, these same people have literally assassinated people, run coups all over the world. And I would argue that they've killed a couple of their own leaders. And you really think you're just going to walk in and they're just going to they're going to let you take over trillions of dollars just because you passed some legislation? And how are you going to get that legislation even passed? I mean, you don't think that they've already bought off most of the people who you're going to need the votes from? I mean, this is like this, like when I hear people say, well, we need to make our demands of the government what we want. You could demand all you want. I can go up to a bank and tell them, you're just going to open that safe and give me the money. Is it going to happen? Fuck no.
And they're going to give you the
markup. These people,
and they're
not going to happen talking.
And Marcus, they're going to give you the marked up money that they're going to be able to trace, and you ain't going to be able to spend.
What I'm saying is, you're not. These people, this mentality of they have leverage and control over the country. Now, granted, the country gives you this false sense of control. It lets you believe, yeah, you're really the boss, but you're not. You're not the boss of anything, and that's what most people don't understand. None of these political parties have any power. Literally none of them. Yeah, Chris.
And I'm looking. I just did a quick search, right, of the top 100 businesses, right? So I'm just looking at some of the names, right? American Express, Exxon, Amazon, IBM, Salesforce, Citigroup, JP Morgan, General Electric, Alphabet, aka Google, Microsoft, Apple. Okay, for them girls, how you gonna take over them places? Because they on that list of top 100 companies. So you gonna walk into AT&T and just say, "Yo, I'm president. This is my shit now." Yo.
Well, Chris, before that, how do you get yourself on the airways, which are controlled by some of these top 100 companies? How do you even get that message out there? You've already told them that you come in to take their shit. You think that they're going to let you come on their broadcast networks and allow you to build up a platform, somebody from nowhere who has no connections, to take over their shit? That's the same thing which when I hear these people talking about a coup in the fighting this armed revolution in America. In order for you to have an armed revolution anywhere, is you have to be able to have some home base where you can set up be off the grid, have your own food source, have your own supplies, all these things, and unless half of the government just defects to you.
Wait. And the best part is that I don't know if this is on her website, but most of these people will be like, yes, we're going to take over the top 100 companies. And then they're like pro gun control. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, unless you plan to be like, honestly, if even like running as an independent, like I would want to be strapped, like walk into Congress. Like there's no way I would run as an independent without like a holster attached to my side. No way, because you know, like they're gonna be after you. You need to defend yourself. You need to have security. Like look at what's happening to Kennedy, and he's not even really putting himself out there. He's like pro-Israel, you know, like whatever. So unless you are planning to do military training and like, you know, learn how to shoot and like, you know, you can't do any of this. So why would you advocate for any kind of violence? And taking over the top 100 corporations is definitely violence because like, they have security and they're not going to let you take over anything, and there's going to be violence if you try to do it. So. Like, but
unless they think they're going to use the National Guard.
Yeah, I mean, what is their like? Let me look it up. See if I can see their position on gun control.
Yeah. Here in the meantime. Yeah. When you get that, just let me know. Give me a little wave or something. I look at all these people who say that. You gotta be able to have enough means for protracted stance, food for a good amount of time, a siege, because this government won't just give itself over. The only way that would happen quickly is half of the government has like the military will literally have to defect to your side. If the military doesn't defect to your side, then you don't. In fact, if you look at these coups that happen around the world, it's because there's some kind of powerful leader already, and that person defects, and they get part of the military and militias to all join with them. There's not just like these people thinking it's the 1800s and they can just run up there with muskets and fight this. It's not logical. And I don't care what, you can get 300-400 guns if you want to and have all the training you want to. You are not going to be able to stop a full battalion with billions of dollars of equipment behind them. You're not stopping drones. I'm sorry. Oh, do you have it, Lucy?
No, I didn't find it.
Okay.
Maybe for next time. I'm curious about that because it's just like I noticed that inconsistency over and over again, and it's just like you don't know how it works. They're not going to let you do anything unless you're unless you're packing, you know, like what are you doing? So I don't think like people don't understand like what communism was, like, you know, unless you're like willing. That's the problem I have with like a lot of this more radical language. It's just like a lot of, you can be as radical as you want behind a keyboard, you know, and be like, burn it down, the emoji, but like I can understand that. Like I understand being a keyboard warrior too. Like I get it, but at some point, especially if you're like running for Congress, I take it super not seriously when people are like burn it down, because it's just like whatever, it's a joke.
Yeah.
You know.
Like I mean I laugh at it because I hear a bunch of these people who many of these people who I'll be arguing with, well, I don't argue with them anymore. They're like 22. I mean, spend part of their time in college, you know, and work some kind of average job. Plenty of them never even lived in a bad neighborhood. And yet you think all of a sudden you're going to flip this switch and turn into what? I don't know. You guys are all going to turn to Rambo all of a sudden? I mean, you're the Wolverines now?
You know, like did you hear about what happened with Ryan Carson in New York? So all of these
Yeah, he got stabbed.
progressives,
He got stabbed
yeah, the guy that got stabbed.
in the street.
Yeah, so all of these like democratic socialists, whatever, that they were on the, they're getting roasted basically because they were all on this like fuck the police platform. And I'm not sure if they truly believe this or not at this point. But you know, every time there's a police brutality scandal, they come out and protest, right? Because they have to be seen protesting. When the whole Jordan Neely thing happened, they were like, "This is murder," you know. Like, you know, they didn't really. It's like when they were talking about defund the police, you know, like before 2020, they were talking about how you need resources for psychiatric facilities and mental health care and education and all of these things, but you need to fix the economy, right? And now what the progressives are doing is it's like they're focused like 100% on the defund stuff, but they're not really talking about fixing the economy anymore. So, or about like healthcare or because you know they fucked up with the force the vote thing, so they're not talking about that. They're not talking about funding for healthcare. They're not talking about funding for mental health care. They're not talking about funding for shit, right? But they still have to do the whole virtue signaling around defund the police because they don't want to lose their base, like the minorities and stuff, right? So they went all gung ho with the Jordan Neely thing, like didn't talk about funding for psychiatric facilities, voted against it actually. Like some of them even voted against more money for institutionalization of people that have lost it. And they were saying it's murder, right? What happened to Jordan Neely, they were like, you must call it murder. It's murder, right? What happened? And then this thing happened to Ryan Carson, which was like their friend. It was like a white guy that worked in the nonprofit arena of like, I think he worked on safe injection places or something. So, and the guy, like, he was like in front of a bus stop, and a black guy came out of nowhere and stabbed him to death. Literally stabbed, like the video is like, stabbed him to death. This guy got stabbed to death. And they were like, all of the progressives, all of the democratic socialists, all of them in the city of New York, they came out, they were like, we are so sad about the passing of Ryan Carson. Like, they weren't saying anything about how this guy got brutally murdered in broad daylight, completely unprovoked. It wasn't even like the Jordan Neely incident where the guy was actually mentally, you know, insane and like ran into a subway car screaming. I'm not saying that justifies what happened, right? But there was some level of provocation there where you could say, like, was it a murder or wasn't it? I don't know. Maybe you need to see the video. You know what I mean? Like some kind of, so like they'll take these edge situations where it's not clear what happens, and because they want to like cater to a certain demographic, they're like, this is murder, you know? And then they'll fuck up with like a case like the Ryan Carson case. And now, like, I don't even know what's going to happen in the next election, because there have been like several murders in broad daylight where they don't call it a murder just because it's not a police brutality. Like there was already a case of like this Dominican kid that got killed in a deli, Leandro Guzman or something like that. And then there was like an Egyptian, like this old man that just got gunned down by a gang, like in front of another deli. It's very dangerous. It's like the crime is up now. It's not a joke. And all of these people, like all of the defund the police people on the progressive side, they're suffering really bad press. And now they're adding fuel to the fire by not calling something that was obviously a murder in broad daylight a murder. They don't even want to call it a murder, like a homicide. So it's Leandro Spedetta. Okay. I said his name wrong. So,
Lucy, real quick, let me jump in, Lucy. The progressives and Democrats, they have to be very careful with black folks. They can't piss them off too much, because I know they're looking at their own internal numbers and they're seeing a drop off in support. So they have to act as if they're walking on eggshells as it relates to black folks. And the reason why they won't say that he's a murderer or a killer, because the dude was obviously black. But if you say, yo, that black dude killed homeboy, that's not you making a blanket statement about black people. You're just describing the situation and what it was. Yo, homeboy stabbed him. Who did it? I don't know, some black dude. That's how we in New York, we very descriptive like that. You should just be leaning on the fact that you're a New Yorker and that is how you talk. And we are very descriptive. When we look at people, we say, yo, it's the Dominican shorty. It's the Korean guy. It's the Arab. You know what I'm saying? That's how we are in New York. That doesn't make you racist. But, they're playing this, they're playing this stupid semantics game, you know what I'm saying, as it relates to black people, because they're very much afraid that, some of us, or at least enough of us, will not support the Democratic Party going forward, or at least in the next few elections, and they want to win. So they're going to be pussy about it. And
I know for sure, like not the Latinos, but the Black Americans, a lot of them are running Republican on the local level, because they have the whole FBA thing, right, where they're trying to negotiate with the Republicans, and they had a lot of success with Trump negotiating for the criminal justice stuff. Like, they actually released a lot of people that had, committed minor misdemeanors, whatever, under the Trump administration, and it worked for them, that strategy to negotiate with the Republicans. So, I went to an event, and it was, 3-4 black Republicans running, on the local level. A lot of them are just fuck the Democrats, I'm just gonna run as a Republican. I don't know if it's gonna work, but, to each their own. I don't know.
That's because the Democrats, when you look at them, really, what are they about? Holding up Joe Biden, fighting the culture war, and telling everybody that they have to support every single thing that the alternative community wants to do. And from a politician or a political party standpoint, that is not a wise strategy to get and to keep people. It's basically what it is. And, I see there's a back and forth. I see there's a back and forth in the chat between Jonina and Jera. I just wanted to say, Jera, if you're not aware of the manipulation, the bullshit, the fuck shit that is going on as it relates to the quote trans movement and everything behind it, it's not just people waking up saying, well, I was in the wrong. There's a lot of ugliness and nastiness behind the scenes going on there. And if you really wanted to help people, help them deal with the trauma that hurt them, that made them feel the way they do. A lot of these people need therapy, because there's a lot of deep and unfortunate sexual trauma and abuse that has taken place amongst these people. Not all of them just woke up and said, hey, if you talk to enough of these people, you will see that abuse has taken place. But again, handle that outside of our politics, right? Because too much of that is infecting our politics. And as we are seeing, it's chasing a lot of people out of the Democratic Party. And for those of you who want to act as if the trans community especially is some large group in the country, you're dead ass wrong. No one wants to hurt anybody. But you're not going to put yourself in front of the line because you woke up and decided to say, you know what, I don't like my penis, I want a vagina, or vice versa. So, hey, whatever personal shit you got going on, I feel bad for you. I hope you get help. I hope you stay away from pills and trying to cope with what's going on. But at the end of the day, you're being very loud and very wrong and extremely sensitive about a lot of shit. Okay? Work with people. Stop trying to put yourself to the front of the line. And, you know, if you think it's not an agenda, sorry, Marcus, I'm going to just go on this quick rant real quick and we can get back to it. Earlier this week, is Marcus frozen? Oh, okay, he moved. I thought my man was an ice block. Anyway, Marcus, you see this, the Democrats told us that we have to celebrate another first in the United States government. First black woman elected to the Senate. And of course, they said she's first openly LGBTQ woman in the Senate, black woman of the Senate. Okay, I'm sorry with those. When people start telling me stuff like that, I automatically oppose them now. Because that shit is a setup. And if you're not paying attention to things the way that they have been progressing over the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, then you're fucking clueless as to what's really happening. Because they did the same shit with the speaker. What's her name? The liar chick. I mean, they're all liars, but the latest liar. The Haitian girl who's up there now. What's her name? The speaker.
Like the press secretary.
Yeah, what's her name?
I don't know.
Karine.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
Karine Jean-Pierre.
But anyway. Yes, Corinne Steffens. Thank you, Jonina. You know, they're hyping up their sexual preference. That's it. You didn't tell me anything about their policy. You didn't tell me what they're standing on. You didn't tell me what they want to do going forward. The only thing you're telling me is that they like the same sex. That's it. That's not enough. That's matter of fact, it is irrelevant. It is irrelevant for me, Marcus, or Lucy to get up here and say, hey, you know what? We love women. And for Lucy to say, hey, I love men. There's no need for that. But lately, it seems like every single time they want to put somebody of color in our face, they always got to tell us about their sexual persuasion if they like the same sex. I'm tired of hearing that shit. I really am. Yo, go do your thing. I'm not hating on you. I don't wish bad for you. But to be quite honest, I don't give a fuck what you want to do in your bedroom. Stop talking about it. Talk about policy that affect us, because you know what? What you do in your bedroom has no effect on me, my kids, Lucy and her family, Marcus and his family. You know what I'm saying? So it gets very annoying at this point in time that we're still talking about people's color, and we're still talking about their sexual proclivities or their sexual habits or preferences and shit like that. None of that helps lower the price of tea in China, or the price of gas in South Florida, or the price of gas in Los Angeles, or the
That's what I'm saying.
Gas,
the gas out here, shit. Oh, go ahead, Lucy.
I agree. I sent Marcus that thing with the Lavender Caucus. So, like, apparently what happened, this actually happened. The Green Party, right? They're like the co-chair of the Washington Green Party, which apparently I was wrong about this. It's not somebody that has authority over the entire Green Party. But, like, several people from the Green Party, from the Lavender Caucus, were basically saying that Cornel West was against trans rights, because, like, whenever you don't agree with them 100% on something, you're against trans. Even though, I don't know if you, like, realize this, but, like, every other fucking sentence, Cornel West, like, he mentioned the trans people, right? Every other fucking sentence. And still they're not satisfied. Right? So it's just like, what's really going on here? And then I found out that the Lavender Caucus, they had kicked out, like, the Green Party of Georgia, because the Green Party of Georgia had written this entire, like, constitution on the rights of women. So it's kind of like a competition with, like, actually the feminists and the trans rights activists. Both of them are extremely intense. Both of them. And they need to wage this competition, right, for the entire country. So, you know, and it's like everybody else is just really tired of this subject. Like, I don't give a fuck about trans women in sports or not in sports. I don't, like, you know, like, I can see why somebody that's in sports might really care about this issue. You know, like, I'm fine with playing with men in non-competitive sports, but I would probably not be fine if it was, like, competitive wrestling or something. I don't do competitive wrestling, so I don't really give a shit. You know, you like most people don't. So it's like they'll take this niche issue that people don't agree on. You're never gonna get consensus on it, and they're like, let us talk about this for 24 hours a day, like nonstop. You're never like, I feel like the way to resolve something like that is just be like, we're not going to make a decision or take a stand on this. You're going to have to like, this is just not going to be a position of the party, and you can work it out locally with your own activists. Like that's it. Like I feel like that's the way to get resolution on that type of stuff, because people they're never going to agree on whatever it is. I personally, I feel like the line is interfering with young people, you know, and because apparently they're also kind of like influencing them to believe that if they're like a little bit of a tomboy or something, they really want to be a man. So like, I think that this is like it's one thing to allow people to be themselves, and another one to like, you know, be such an ideologue that you're imposing, you're like, you know, you're assuming that somebody is an alphabet when they're not an alphabet. And you're like trying to push them in that direction because it makes you happy, like because of your social justice goals. That's like a no-go for me. You know, but like the whole thing is crazy. Like the Lavender Caucus of the Green Party is out of control, and they were harassing Cornel West about this, you know, accusing him of not being pro-trans rights. And the guy could not have been more inclusive of them in every other fucking sentence, which makes me wonder, is there a point to have catered to them at all? Like, perhaps somebody should have the balls to just be like, no, fuck you guys. Like, this is not going to be on my platform. You don't like it? That's it. Don't support my campaign, you know, because it's going too far. Like, you know, it's one thing to take a stand on like no to employment discrimination, you know, the stuff that people used to care about, and another one to have this super vague definition of trans rights. I don't even know what it means anymore. And then accuse a guy that has been supporting your agenda the entire time. Cornel West has sounded super liberal. And they are still not satisfied with him. So it's like, it's unbelievable to me. But it seems like the more you cater to it, the worse it is. You just like have to have somebody that really does not give a shit. I don't know how you would make that possible, but I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like at this point, I honestly, if somebody is attacking trans people, then that's something that we all need to get up in arms about. But everybody policing this, over policing of language and wanting to cancel people over this, my thing is the kids. If a kid can't go out there and get a tattoo on their own, and the kid can't go rent an apartment, and the kid can't do all these things on their own, how can they take drugs that can alter their state permanently? And there's not even full research on how this is going to affect somebody down the line. So that's where I draw my line. I'm not cool with that. And then even when some people talk about Black trans lives matter, in the Black community, most of the time when it is a Black trans kind of situation, majority of the time, not every time, it's normally because they went home together and they didn't tell that person that they were trans, and then they were attacked because of that. And I get it, in your head, you might feel, I'm a woman, I don't want to be looked at as anything different. But just because that's the way you think and believe, that does not mean that's the way other people think and believe or going to think and believe. And if you just say I'm a woman and you take somebody home and they find some extra equipment downstairs, I'm not saying they're justified for attacking you, but I'm saying that to them, you are being dishonest, you are lying, and you are violating them because they might be a heterosexual person, which you are tricking them into doing something that is not a heterosexual act. So, I mean, I don't like going down this avenue very much, but I will if I have to clarify. But also, people who disagree with me, I'm not running for Congress or anything, so it doesn't really matter what the hell I think, because I'm not making any laws that's going to change anybody's life. So allow me to think what I want. My religious beliefs still play, and so I'm still going to believe what I believe. And tough luck for anybody who disagrees with it. And if Cornel West is your enemy on the trans stuff, then
good luck with the conservatives. Like where? Yeah, like what? Who is your ally? If you know, like you know, and the funny thing is they'll go really hard against. I think maybe that's why they do it. They'll like see somebody that's like liberal, open to their ideas, and they want him to get it perfect, or you know, like they want him to get it right, like according to what they want. But to me, it's just like I don't know. It's really it's really crazy. And actually I was looking at some posts today. Maybe this is like a transition to the whole Israel conversation that I don't know if you want to talk about it or not. But where there's a lot of people that were posting stuff, especially like Li Fang. I actually really like Li Fang, but like talking about how ironic it is that there's like queers for Palestine and stuff like this. But the thing is, it's like, like, there's no, there's lots of queer Arabs, you know, like there's queers everywhere in the world. And just because they're not accepted by society, like to the same degree as like the Western world, doesn't mean there's like an agenda to kill them. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like the way the West exaggerates. They're like, oh my God, you know, like they act like in the Muslim world there's like, you know, that they act like there's like a genocide agenda against the queers, and it's not really that. It's more like similar to what happens in conservative America, where it's like people just don't want to hear it. If that makes sense, like that kind of conservatism. But it's not like it's not necessarily like a violent conservatism. It's like even the right here, like it's like they don't understand the difference between like the violent conservatism and like just like the whole don't ask, don't tell kind of thing, where it's like the family doesn't want to hear it, so like you're not supposed to say it, but people might know you're gay, but like, you know, they don't want to think about it or like hear about it. That's like kind of the thing.
You know, one thing I just want to say as it relates to this topic, what you know, if you hear a tad bit of animosity in my tone or my voice or how I say it, part of the reason that there's a tad bit of animosity there is because I didn't change what I didn't choose what I look like. Let me repeat that. I didn't choose to look like this. I came out, I grew up, and this is what I look like. Some people are making choices, and then they're saying you have to change your whole life ideology, the way you think, the way you breathe, the way you eat, and all this shit because of my personal choice. Again, think about this. You are supposed to move differently because somebody else made a personal choice in their own lives. Again, I'm not talking about the average person. I'm talking about the ones that are very loud about this stuff. The ones who are very loud on the internet about it. The ones who would tell people like, media, you see, again, like this is a very nuanced conversation. I'm gonna need people to like follow and keep up, sharpen your knives, right? I'm not talking about everybody in the community. I'm talking about the ones who are on TV and in Front Street telling us how we need to move. I think everybody here either has someone gay in their family, or they have a gay coworker they mad cool with, or somebody. everybody knows somebody. So I have people I'm cool with who
I'll be
are
right back.
Yeah, good. I'm very cool with people who have person in my life. I be texting people who are gay. Yo, you good? You all right? Da-da-da. Life good? How's everything? Etc. Etc. So please do not take this as like a criticism of everybody. I'm talking about the people behind the agenda that are putting shit in our face. I don't know if you guys just saw this, right? Perfect example. Portugal just sent like a trans woman to their Miss Universe competition. I believe in Portugal, a trans woman won the Miss Universe contest.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. If you have to put something in front of the word woman, something's wrong. If you have to put something in front of the word man, it's not us, it's y'all. Right? So, I'll end it there. I just want to say it's not an attack on everybody. It's an attack on the ones who are proud to be loud and wrong and are very forceful with their ideology, and to say that you're a hater or that you want harm to come to people because I don't agree with every single thing that you want to do. Grow the fuck up. Grow up. I mean, y'all can't figure out what private parts you want. How about you just decide to go to the doctor and ask them for a fucking spine? How about that? Because it's tiresome. And I know a lot of people live on the internet, so I know a lot of people in the crowd like, ooh. But when you get off the internet and you actually talk to people in supermarkets, dentist's office, doctor's offices, on the street, on the bus, on the train, there's far more people who feel like this than you realize. They're just very quiet because people don't want to be canceled, because we know that community is very good at digging into people and then trying to cancel them, trying to ruin their lives. You understand what I'm saying? Live your life like the rest of us do. Stop putting your sexuality first, because quite honestly, nobody gives a fuck. Just like nobody gives a fuck about what I do sexually, or what Lucy does, or what Marcus does, or what anybody in the chat does. There's only one group of people that's running around talking about, hey, pay me attention because of what I do sexually. There's only one group. It's not us.
Actually, like, I don't care that much. I don't care that much about the...
And at the end of the day, again, these are people who do not have children. They're not concerned with raising children. There's one particular group who thinks it's okay to dress up like a stripper and go to school and read to kids with their legs open and doing all these kind of fuck shit dances in front of young children. I'm saying there's something wrong with that, because I wouldn't bring shorty from Starlets to my son's high school, even though I'm sure the boys would love it. And they would be like, ooh, They would love to see the girls from Starlets or any other club, but I'm not going to do that because I have some sense of fucking decency. And there's a certain time in life you're supposed to, there's certain levels in life in which you're supposed to deal with this. These people are talking about giving kids pills at a certain age. There's something wrong with your mindset. If you're like, well, damn, I need to take little Jay to the doctor and, start this process of Jay becoming Sarah. There's something wrong with that. It's a kid. I wanted to be Voltron, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, He-Man. I wanted to be all of that. So just keep that in mind. Stop talking about it. And like I made the comment in the chat, it's all about the economy and money and all the rest of it. Because if you had enough money to live your life the way you wanted to live, you wouldn't be complaining about it. And to the extent that you want Medicare for all, do you think that people's tax dollars should be going to your desired change of your sexuality? Do you think that me, Marcus, Lucy, or the rest of people who do work full time, do you think money should be coming out of my check to go towards that? There's a lot of shit that already come out my check that I don't want it to go towards, right? Prisons, taxes, the money go to wars. So that's on the list too. I just want y'all to be aware of that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, rant over, done. Go ahead, Lucy.
That's funny. I was just gonna say, like, I don't really care about the beauty contest. Like, to me, it's like they can have it. when it's like wrestling, competitive wrestling, it's like okay, because that's dangerous for women, you know. But I think like the first time I noticed that this whole thing was like a huge psyop or like just crazy shit by the liberals is like I remember at one point I like donated to an organization. It was like Bronx Freedom Fund, and I thought it sounded good, and it was like they help people get out of jail, right? But eventually I started noticing it's like, why is it that every time these people are trying to get somebody out of jail, it's a trans person? It was like always a trans person that they were trying to get out of jail. And I was just like, what's going on here, really, you know? And then I realized, you know what's actually happening in some of these prisons? They're adjusting to the fact that there are so many of these, like, crazy liberals outside only giving money to get trans people out of jail, that some of them are saying that they're trans. Like, this is actually a real thing. Why? Because they know that there's a market of like social justice warriors on the outside that only care about trans people getting out of jail. So it is actually affecting the whole nonprofit world, and it's like there's like an incentive to be trans in jail, because then you can get on the list. These like social justice warriors will be like, oh my god, we have to get you out of jail. So when I noticed that, I was like, I cannot support this organization anymore. I mean, it's one.
Lucy, real quick. Sorry, I just didn't want to echo. Real quick, I'm gonna jump in and give it right back to you. The funny thing is that they're taking the trans people out of the jails. They're taking the trans women out of the men's facilities. They're putting them into the women's facilities, and some of the women inmates are ending up pregnant. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyway, what do you think about this whole thing, like this whole careening towards World War III? Are you scared? I'm kind of scared. Like I feel like it's gonna happen soon, like for us too.
My thoughts on that are, let me mute you real quick. Oh, I don't know what happened to Marcus. I guess he'll be back. But my thoughts on the like World War III stuff. I mean, at the same time, the elites and all that shit, they need. At the same time, the elites need to also, what's the word? How I want to say, they need to live here too, right? They need some of the water. They need some of the air. I mean, unless they just really have their own planet already ready, and the only thing they're waiting to do is turn on the gravity. I don't know, but they still need some of the things that we all share as common people. So if it's going to be World War III, do I think that they're going to destroy everything? No, I think it's more talk so that they could also suck more money out of our checks to build their military up, because you can see, our military spending only ever increases and never decreases. That can also keep us scared. It can keep us from taking certain risks or taking certain steps or making certain moves because we're waiting. You know what I'm saying? So, or not, excuse me, not waiting, fearful, right? I'm not scared. I don't think that the world is going to be blown up, at least not in my lifetime. If it does, I think it's going to happen over the next 40 years. But go ahead, Lucy.
I mean, I do think the whole Israel thing is very serious. Like I do think that there is, like, even though I'm not a Kennedy fan, I do think that there is a chance that he switches his position up a little bit on that. Not in the sense that he's ever gonna be like, like free Palestine, not like that, but just more the way the Kennedys were. Like the Kennedys, like they were actually not as great as like people are making them out to be. Like they believed in domino theory, like they fucked over millions of Vietnamese people. like JFK was like, screwing Marilyn Monroe and she committed suicide, and like Robert Kennedy, like his ex-wife committed suicide. I don't know why like all of these people's wives are committing suicide. I don't think it's like a coincidence. Like, you don't just commit suicide because you're having a great time, So I think there's something weird about the Kennedy family that goes beyond the fact that they were persecuted by the deep state. But I do think that like among some of these like elites, there's like different levels of insanity where some of them are just totally crazy, like the John Boltons or whatever, where they're just like, I'm fine with nuking the world. I've already got my space reserved on Mars or whatever. Like, like they're doing exploratory space travel, probably so that they can like shuttle off and like leave the rest of us here. There's a movie about that with like Matt Damon where it's like it's a really bad action movie, but it's like all of the elites go to like space to live on another planet.
No. That's not Elysium.
Elysium. Yes, and then like on Earth, it's like that's where all the Mexicans are and stuff. That's exactly what it was like in the movie. But but like Matt Damon was there, and he like took one Mexican child with him. And I don't know if you guys saw that movie. But yeah, there's like John Bolton, Mr. Walrus, and then there's like the Kennedys, who they're like, they support qualified immunity. They're like pro cops. They want to put like Israel censors on the border. They're like fuck the Palestinians, like pro Israel, all of that, right? But they have a line which is like, okay, but I don't want to destroy life on Earth and like nuke everybody, because that also means like the end of like my existence as we know it. Like, they're not so far gone that they are complete. They're still horrible people, but they're not so far gone that they want to like like destroy Earth. So like that's where I see the Kennedys, like where they're much more horrible than everybody thinks, but they're not so far gone. And that's why they're kind of important, like, in this historical moment. So, like, I don't know how that's going to turn out, but anyway, that's that's how I see it.
Hey, Marcus, I wanted to ask you. You put Nuke test into the show, and then Lucy just all right, Warren, we'll talk to you later, man. Peace. Lucy just mentioned like nuclear weapons and war and shit like that. So what nuclear tests were you referring to? Because I didn't see that.
Well, I was going to bring it up.
I'm just forgetting.
Both the U.S. Hold on, let me see. I got that article.
You sound low. Maybe pull your mic closer.
If it doesn't get
pause.
Let's see. Is that better? Is that better? Can you guys hear me better? Might need to get a new mic. But the Nuke test. Well, it's not letting me bring up the clip. So I guess oh, there we go. Let's see if I can share it real quick. This is just one of them. But U.S. moves closer to underground testing of nuclear weapons stockpile without any actual explosion. This is something that's going on right now that kind of leaked out, which they've been working on. If this will catch up, there we go. Scientists charged with ensuring the aging U.S. stockpile of nuclear weapons are good to go if needed. Say they'll start shipping key components to Nevada's desert next year to prepare for underground testing they call tickling the dragon's tail. I don't know if you guys are paying attention to that phrasing which they're using there. A lot of times in military lingo, whatever certain things that are known about a country, they'll use that as kind of like a little call sign.
Very symbolic.
tickling the dragon's tail, that's an indication of something to do with China. And if you pay attention to where the Republicans have been going, the Republicans are focused hard and heavy on China, whereas the Democrats are focused on Russia. And so the reason why a lot of these Republicans are pushing so hard against the Russia stuff also is because they believe, weirdly, if you could control this Ukraine-Russia thing and hurt Russia, it will deter China. So the focus is still coming back to, especially on the GOP side, that they're worried about China. Let's continue. Experts at National Defense Laboratories have been able to physically validate the effectiveness and reliability of nuclear warheads since 1992 underground test ban. But Energy Department officials announced Thursday they're on the verge of piecing together the technology needed to do the next best thing. As early as 2027, the $1.8 billion Scorpius project will make it possible to move beyond the theoretical computer modeling to study in much more detail the conditions found inside the final stages of a nuclear weapon implosion, but without the nuclear explosion, said John Custer, the Sandia project lead in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Oddly enough, where my uncle used to work. So that's just a little bit of that article. That's one aspect of it. I'm frozen again. I see him saying time out. Okay, yeah.
Time out, ref. It says as early as 2027, the 1.8 Scorpius project will make it possible to move beyond blah, 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 blah. To study the conditions found in the final stages of a nuclear weapon implosion. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know what happens? Look, you can give me the 1.8 billion right now. I'll tell you what happens. You die. End of story. So I'll get the 1.8. Marcus, we'll talk offline so I can figure out how to get you set up and get you some wire. I'll wire transfer you some dough because you my man and I love my people. So, they could give me the 1.8 billion. Marcus, I got you, dog. We gonna go on vacation.
I hear that. Saint Bart sounds good. But I mean, another thing, this is just one of them, and I'll stop this one right here. Because what piqued my interest and caught all this is, I noticed that there were 2 naval decommissionings coming up, and I was like, 2 naval decommissionings. I wonder if they're big ships or not. And let's see, do I have that one here also? I think was it an article or a video? There we go. There it is. So this is what the Navy has going on.
To some of the U.S. Navy's shrinking fleet. The service will decommission 2 nuclear aircraft carriers, and 2 Independence-class littoral combat ships will go up for sale to foreign militaries. The USS Nimitz will leave the service in 2026, while the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower will retire a year later. It's part of a long-term effort to modernize the current fleet of 297 ships. Over the decades, the 2 aircraft carriers heading to the chopping block have played significant roles in military conflicts. The 48-year-old USS Nimitz CVN-68 was commissioned in 1975 and
all right, so you guys get the gist of that.
The Nimitz is one of the largest warships in the world. The
Nimitz is one of them, and the Nimitz is, I was like, the Nimitz is decomming? That's a big deal. They got to be replacing this with something because the Nimitz, I want to say it carries something like about 90 planes on it. So you're carrying 90 different fighter jets. That's a lot of firepower that you're flying off. And in the military, they don't just get rid of stuff. They replace it with something else. So I started wondering, what are they replacing this with? So bear with me for a while. Keep walking with me. They're testing those weapons. They got rid of, they're getting rid of those 2 ships. That's where we're at right now. Keep walking with me for a second. I'm taking you guys somewhere. This is what they're working on. Now, I heard about this years back, and I've kind of lost track with it. I didn't know how far along they were, but what they're doing is they are retrofitting some. Well, they have one new carrier that's coming out. Oh, that's right. I didn't pull that video up, but I can just tell you what it is. They have the Gerald Ford class nuclear powered subs that are coming, and so they have a couple of those that they got planned, and they have something specific on them that I noticed that was pretty different and interesting. China, on the other hand, has been working on its nuclear arsenal, and China's nuclear arsenal already. I already knew that they had some stuff that was Mach 5, Mach 7, and I already knew that they had hyper supersonic that has already went all the way across our airspace. So they show the capability to launch from China, mainland China, to the US, all the way around even to DC. So they show they have the ability to do that. And what that told me is, okay, so they have the ability to attack us, but here's the contingency plan. With nuclear war, you don't want to get attacked back. So what you would have to do is you would have to take out the other avenues of America responding and retaliating. And so what that would be is the carrier forces, because most of the time in those carrier forces, you have a couple of nuclear powered subs, which are carrying nuclear warheads. Well, China's been working on that. I won't show you the video, for that one, but this is what they are working on right now. So you guys are following me. U.S. is testing their nukes. China has been working on building up their nuclear technology. Russia, where they come in, Russia's number one, their number one like weapons technology has to do with knocking out power grids. I'm forgetting EMP weapons, so electric magnetic pulse. So if you're able to launch one of those, then you have the ability to shut down our weapon systems here within the blast radius. So therefore, leaving us a sitting duck and only having our naval fleet being the pushback. Well, they've been working on weapons for that. And what I see is a concerted effort for China and Russia as they pair and get closer together, that with what they're building towards is their counterpunch or their way to counteract nuclear weapons from the United States coming back. Now, Russia on their own could deal with Great Britain. Russia could deal with most of Europe by themselves. But you would need China, on the other hand, to have to counteract the US. And the two of them coming together, and also if they were able to have, well, North Korea is in the fold. North Korea would pick off smaller allies like Australia and Turkey if they don't fall in line, or any other areas that we might try to ship weapons to, i.e., their plans of putting weapons in Ukraine. So with all of this going on and this theater building up, don't forget Iran is on the other side of that, and they're in partnership also with they've been working with partnerships with China. So Iran has nuclear weapons also. You have the whole situation going on in Israel. Keep this in mind also at the same time. Iran has been waiting for an opportunity to attack Israel. Oh yeah, by the way, Israel is a nuclear power state also. So all that said, this is what the Navy has, which they're working on. No, not that one. Sorry. Let me pull this clip up. Sorry, that was the wrong one. And so what it tells me is they definitely are taking it extremely serious. Oh, maybe I did have both of. Oh, never mind. We'll just hop to this one. The Gerald Ford class carriers.
$3 billion USS Gerald R. Ford is the largest and most expensive warship ever to sail. It boasts a sprawling 5-acre flight deck and new technologies aimed at making it and carriers like it the world's most powerful. Well into 2050 and beyond. The vessel holds 4 squadrons of fighters on board and a bevy of support and tactical aircraft, more than 60 planes in all, though it can accommodate as many as 90. The USS Ford stands more than 9 stories above the waterline and weighs 97,000 tons. That's 32,000 tons heavier than the largest battleships of World War II. But big doesn't mean slow. Powered by a pair of advanced A-1B nuclear reactors, the ship has nearly 3 times the power of America's existing supercarriers, about 300 megawatts of electrical power in all, according to the Navy. Seeing it on the water is like watching a New York City block cruise past at 34 miles per hour. But new anti-ship missiles from China, some capable of maneuvering at hypersonic speeds above Mach 5, threaten to render the USS Ford and the Navy's entire Pacific Fleet obsolete. A sobering report from the Congressional Research Service, updated in August 2022, points to concerns about the survivability of Navy surface ships in potential combat situations against adversaries, such as China, that are armed with large numbers of UAVs and anti-ship missiles, including advanced models. China has aggressively scaled the size of its naval fleet in the past decade and has developed several anti-ship weapons, including highly maneuverable hypersonic missiles capable of reaching Mach 10. China isn't hiding the fact that those weapons are intended to repel American ships. The USS Ford and ships like it have a battery of anti-missile defenses, but none are capable of protecting it in a prolonged battle against China's latest weapons. To maintain dominance in the Pacific, to just keep its ships afloat, the Navy is going all in on a new technology that has remained out of reach for decades: the laser. The benefits are tantalizing. Powered by a large fuel source, the Ford's hulking nuclear reactors fit the bill. Lasers fire at the speed of light, negating the speed of hypersonic weapons. They can reload quickly to fend off swarms of drones. And they
I had to stop that right there. Let's back that up what he just said, because I'm going to tell you why he just said is bullshit.
Fuel source. The Ford's hulking nuclear reactors fit the bill. Lasers fire at the speed of light, negating the speed of hypersonic.
They fire at the speed of light, negating. You're not about to negate anything. Another thing.
Yo, Chris is funny. Chris is funny. He wrote in the comment, "Bumbleclot lasers."
Well, here's the thing about these lasers, right?
Yo, that shit is crazy.
Here's the thing about these lasers. The way that they work in theory is they put that ray, that laser beam on it for long enough for it to heat up the outer shell and explode the weapon. That's how they're supposed to work. When something is going as fast as Mach 10, as this thing says it'll go, it's already building up a heat shield because of how fast it's already going. Not to mention, I guarantee you they have some kind of technology they've worked out to deal with this kind of contingency. And then also, they're only showing maybe 1, maybe 2 of these lasers on. If they shoot a battery of these weapons, let's say they are able to take out some of them, they're not going to be able to take out all of the missiles that are shot at them. Therefore, still leaving China with the advantage at taking out our nuclear carriers. I mean, I don't have to really show any more of the video.
Well, I think China...
Yeah.
I think China is really, I mean, they're doing this defensively because defensively, maybe some people might think offensively, but like to a certain extent, their economy is still based on exporting shit that we have to buy, you know? So, like, I don't think like I feel like if they can avoid war, that they would. It's just like the neocons in the U.S. are totally rabid. Like they, and they're stupid too because they were the ones that actually helped China become the economy they are today. Like if they hadn't exported all the manufacturing, you know, because they didn't want to pay American wages or whatever it is, like China would not even be anywhere near the superpower that they are today. I mean, they were always like a great a great country with a lot of like they have a very long history. They're a very big country. So like they were always powerful in that sense, but they wouldn't have become like the economic power that they are without help from the US. So and like after, like what would the US do? Like the US wouldn't last 2 days in a war against China. Chinese make everything. They make everything we use. They make like all of the parts for our technology. It's like, okay, like you can say like you want to keep Taiwan because Taiwan has like the semiconductor technology, but whatever, what about everything else? Like what you wear, what you do? They could like blockade us and it would be over for us. Like, at this point, it's the stupidest thing in the world. And it's insane. Like, I mean, it's insane even from the point of view of self-interest. I'm not even saying like from the point of view of like having a heart and like not not hurting people or not being a colonial country. Like you should be all of those things, but even from the point of view of self-interest, you're gonna lose this. This is like a losing, a completely losing bat. Like we've already lost because like the principles of war is not just about your military, which we do have a powerful military, but it's about how long can you stay at war. And we can't stay 2 days at war with China because we don't produce any of our own shit anymore. So if they were to sanction or blockade us, it would be over for us. And Americans would freak out without like 2 days of technology, of Chinese technology, cell phones, like computer parts. Like it'd be over for us. We don't make anything. So, and I like Americans have become very comfortable with like, I mean, even though it is hard to make it here, and like I'm not saying that we obviously have a very struggling middle class and very struggling working class, but it's still a country where food is relatively affordable, clothes is relatively affordable. Like a lot of countries, people come here to shop because clothes is cheaper here than it is in other countries. They'll come, a lot of tourists come, they'll shop in New York, whatever. Then, to like, because it's actually cheaper to buy clothes in New York than, in Honduras or Puerto Rico, like people come here to shop. So I don't know, like, I really don't understand where this is going, but if it does go that way, I'm not prepared because I'm still used to my comforts, and I'm not saying I have that many comforts, but like I don't want to see some huge increase in the price of clothing or in the price of electronics or have to like worry about like not buying a battery again in my entire life because we're at war with China. We've never experienced that in our lives. Like,
Nope.
so we're gonna freak out. I'm gonna freak out. Like I want to be able to update my phone every like if I'm being honest, like I want to be able to update my phone every 5 years at least. Can you imagine war with China? You wouldn't have access to, like if you get sanctioned, we wouldn't have access to electronics, like affordable clothing. We might have to like travel somewhere else to buy stuff. Like
if we started beef with China, Marcus, all of us would be naked right now. Like we'd have the blurred shit all over us. You know what I'm saying? Because if our shit isn't made directly by China, it's made by a subsidiary of China in fucking Asia. So there would be, oh, look, she checking her tag. Her shit probably gonna say Bangladesh or Vietnam.
She said hers is made in China. I'm pretty sure a lot of mine
is made in China.
Yeah, like I was just like, this is made in either China or Vietnam. And I checked the tag and it's made in China. So like, you have to revamp your entire manufacturing sector before, like, if you were even thinking about going to war with these people. Of course, probably like maybe they have like some sinister plan where they're like, oh, you know, we're gonna invade them and then take over their manufacturing. You know, like maybe that's their idea. But the other thing too is like, I think the U.S. is like the neocons. They're like so psychotic. They're probably trying to play it smart with India, right? Because India also has like a very high population, and they know that you can't just go if you went to war with India and China, that's like the majority of the population of the world because they just have so many people, right? So what they're trying to do is like get India on their side, and that's actually probably part of why you have like so many psychotic Indians running in the Republican Party. Like you have Nikki Haley and this like what's his name, Vivek, whatever, and they're both like super anti-China because, and like Tulsi Gabbard's like this too.
Vivek
She's like in the block.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy, and also Tulsi Gabbard. Like people like her a lot, but she's like totally in the block where they're trying to like get India on their side because they're anti-China. So there's a whole bunch of like politicians right now where they're trying to do the pro-India thing, and they're like saying, oh, India's the largest democracy in the world, and we have to be, support the. Even though India's like shitty, like okay, like India. Everybody I know, first of all, that has actually been to India, it's like the poverty in India is so much worse than in China. The insecurity, the violence, like there's a lot of things about India that it is not the largest democracy in the world. Like I would much rather live in China.
What was that, Chris?
Look, India got problems. They have a raping issue. They have a problem with women. They cannot control themselves because just like China, obviously years and decades, maybe even a century or maybe 2 centuries, they only valued the male children, right? They looked at daughters as burdens, right? Because you have to give a lot in a dowry, etc., etc. So they didn't really value their daughters. So if they didn't kill them, then they gave them away. But what does that do over time? It creates a society in which you have 97 men per woman. So you have a bunch of thirst buckets who have not been able to explore themselves sexually. And what we see is a shit ton of rapes. And I'm very curious as to the rape rates and crimes in China. I know China be keeping everything close to the vest, and they want to appear on the world stage as if, hey, Lucy, you got a ghost. You may want to go close your closet. But, China, I feel like China probably has a similar problem. It's probably just not spoken about the way that it is as it relates to India. But they got problems, man. Yo, 27 men
China,
raping a woman on a bus?
China had the same problem, but communism actually fixed a large part of it. Like women are like fairly equal in China. I'm not saying it's perfect or anything, but India is the worst place in the world for women, hands down. Like their rape rate is out of control. And the thing that you don't hear about, especially with all of this like Islamist, like all of these people being like, oh, there's Islamist jihad, like whatever, like that kind of, they like stereotype the Muslim countries, is that India is worse than the Muslim countries, like than all of them basically in women's rights. And it's out of control. Like because of the gender imbalance that you're talking about. So I don't know. And then like the in the American media, they make it sound like India is like a democracy and that it's better than women's rights than Saudi Arabia, for example. I'm not saying Saudi Arabia is great or it's fantastic, but Saudi Arabia, like, it does have a middle class with a lot of educated women. It's safer for women than India, Saudi Arabia. Believe it or not, like, so it's just like a lot of stuff where it's people they just don't know and they're just like India's a democracy and they just go with these labels. It's China is not like there's still some there are similar problems with rape because in some provinces, especially like less developed areas where they have like issues with prostitution and stuff like this, and like Yunnan province, which is like a province in southern China that's less developed than other parts of China, but overall, China is not as bad for women as India, at all. So and you're right, Sai. Like, I don't know what it is, and you never hear any of these like feminists or whatever talking about how bad it is in India. I mean, like, unless they're Indians, like, but like the Western ones, they're always like circle jerking about how bad it is in the Arab countries. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, hello? You guys still hear me? I know it's everybody. So I'm about to transform my.
Yes, we can. We can hear you very well. We are talking about my people. I have to go into character, and I must continue to talk like this, right? Because I can do it very well. And I'm telling you, some of my brothers do not respect women, and they're doing crazy things to women. So I would like to tell them to calm down, like Rima. Calm down. Calm down. You understand what I'm saying? They gotta relax. They.
I was wondering how long you're talking India before you were going to go into. I was like, oh God, here it comes. but
Marcus, I can't help it. I grew up in New York City, dog. Like, my babysitter was Bangladesh. I can't help it, yo. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of me. But anyway, oh, and shout out to Trisha. She just got her job at the UN. Congratulations. Good job. Speaking of my peoples. Anyway, with that being said, they probably have the same problem in China that they do in India. It's probably just not allowed to get out to the world in the way that it is in India. You know what I'm saying? It's all fucked up. Oh, Hamza came back. Hamza, what's up, man? Did you listen to Shiva? Did he say anything decent? Anyway, but Marcus, I really want to touch on. I
had a little
get off this topic. I'm sorry, Lucy, but Marcus, I really wanted.
I had a little bit more I wanted to say on the whole the nuke stuff before we switched over to Israel. The last thing that I would say is
okay. You can go ahead and finish, my friend.
This is where me and my brother we disagree a little bit. He believes that, and kind of more like how you do, Lucy, how economically that they kind of need each other, so they wouldn't want to go this route. I look at it as China works on 25-year plans. They don't worry about short-term hurdles. And so I think China would be, if it got to that point, they're preparing that contingency plan so they don't have to deal with the U.S. anymore at all. And they could very easily be like, you know what? At that point, now there's no U.S. to push back on. So they could very easily say, you know what, here's the new terms that you're going to deal with. And use the same military force which the U.S. used since World War II on everybody else to push sanctions and all kind of other stuff. And China and Russia would, at that point, have that kind of power to be able to set the terms worldwide. Because if it wasn't for our military, the country would already be in complete insolvency because of how much the debt. That's the reason why when people were talking about, can't remember what it was, for a little while, people were talking about these forms of using money when we don't have money. I'm blanking on it. Somebody will know what I'm talking about. But how we can just keep on leveraging debt and it doesn't matter because they're not going to collect on the debt and they need us because we're purchasing economy. Well, they would be able to do the same thing. The laws that govern because one of the reasons why the United States has been able to stay on top also besides their military is the petrodollar. And there would be no more, if there's no more US who has the top deals with Canada and the different Arab markets that make gas cheaper here, and then they had it all of a sudden, then they would have the power. That's the reason why outside of Great Britain, most of Europe gas prices are insane. When I was in Italy, everything would be great in Italy if they had cheaper gas prices, but since they can't get it from the top tier sources and they have to buy it third and fourth hand, it gets more and more expensive. Or deal with Libya, which they're getting that deal secondhand through France. And so it makes all the gas more and more expensive in a lot of these other countries over there, especially since they can't deal with Saudi Arabia directly. And so I think that it's short term, yeah, they'll have a little bit of logistics they'll have to figure out, but overall it will be all upside for them in the long term to not have to even deal with the US, because then they would be setting the terms. Well, they would have to kind of share that with Russia. But since Russia is literally China's number one, China and Russia now become each other's number one export partners. They don't really, China would be able to just funnel all of those products throughout the rest of Europe and more into Africa. And the fact that that's the reason why China and Russia have been shoring up all their business with the African nations.
What do you mean, like, get rid of? Like, do you mean just, like, cut off economically?
I'm talking about taking them off the block.
Because I feel like we have this mentality in the US where it's like kind of kill or be killed kind of thing, you know, like with like the whole military supremacy or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I don't think the Chinese think the same way, like because what we did is we basically inherited the most fucked up mindset from the British colonial system, and it just kind of like got transferred over here. So like now we have this might makes right mentality where we're like, we're the best, and I do think China wants to dominate economically, but I don't think they have the same mindset with dominating militarily.
I agree.
And I don't think they ever have, like, so I don't think they want to, like, off us, like, the way a lot of Americans think, like, so I don't think they want to eliminate us, but, I do think potentially they might want to take our resources. Like, they already do that to other countries, for example, they'll, like, there's, like, Chinese fishing ships in, like, different parts of the world where, they'll go and, like, take their fish and stuff like that. But I don't think they want to, like, nuke us or, like get rid of all of us. I don't think they have that same mentality that we do, honestly. Like,
well, I'll explain. I don't think that they have that mentality or that's their normal nature. No, I don't believe that. But in order for them to become the number one hegemony, that's the only way it's going to happen, because the U.S. is unwilling to just economically become second. They're going to war over it. And so therefore their hand will be forced. They will have to, at some point, be put in that situation, because the U.S. is not going to allow themselves to be surpassed. And if you go into like the histories of a lot of these other countries, as their economies start going stronger and stronger and stronger, the U.S. intentionally kneecapped them to keep them from growing. I mean, that's what they did that with Japan. They've done that with Turkey. They've done that with Pakistan. They've done that with multiple countries, and they intentionally went in and cooed leaders and things like that to keep these nations down.
Yeah, but they won't be able to do it here because China's just, it's, first of all, like people act like in the US, like people act like China just surpassed us economically. In reality, they surpassed us economically 20 years ago. Like, they surpassed us economically 20 years ago. The only thing was that their GDP, it wasn't technically higher than us because they artificially suppress their currency so that they can export more shit to us so that we buy it. But like their economy in terms of
also.
right, but like their economy had already surpassed us 20 years ago in like real GDP, not like dollar GDP or whatever. And now they have already surpassed us, so it's not even a competition. They've surpassed us economically. Like their cities are growing, and our cities are shrinking. Like you can see, like our cities are actually there. We have so many cities that are like ghost cities. Like Detroit, you know, Camden. It's like all of these cities, like North Philly. If you go to North Philadelphia, it's just like vacant houses. Like there's nobody there. There's like, it looks like somebody used to live there, but there's like nothing there now. Or there, you know, there's like junky houses or what. Like the U.S. is totally fucked up right now.
But you're looking at it on the sense of like 1 versus 2 number wise. They look at it as on power and who sets the trends in global. Like for instance, even though the United States is falling apart as a nation, it still controls the hegemony on how trade is dictated, how this country is allowed to do X, and still allowed to pretty much set sanctions on damn near everybody around the world whenever they want. So therefore, even though they're not number 1, they're still controlling the game. And at any point when China wants to try to control the game and say, no, we're going to make this more fair and balanced, and you're just not going to put sanctions on all these countries over here, that's when the U.S. is going to have an issue. And they passed us on number-wise, but because their population is 3 times larger than ours. So number-wise, of course they are, but per capita, they're still below us.
I just want to say, like, where Yonina is saying there's places like that in China. I don't know what you mean, but I never saw, like, when I went, I went to a lot of places. I saw places that were poor, but I never saw places that were, like, vacant or where it looked like the industry had just left the city. I never saw that in China. Like, China is really thriving. Even the places that are poor, people have, like, they have enough to eat. They have housing. It might not be great housing, but they have something. And they're moving up economically. Like, you don't, there aren't places that are like vacant, like where it looks like everybody left the city and it's just like used to be something one day. There's no place like that in China. Like, people don't realize, like, it's really like you know, it's really a country that's going economically uphill. Like, they're in their boom. It's not at all, and it was like that 20 years ago, and now it's even more. Like, there's more entrepreneurship. There's more companies starting up in China. There's, like, you know, a higher standard of living. Even, like, in the U.S., like, a lot of, like, there's a lot of rich kids that come here from China that they're like, first generation rich. You know what I mean? They're, like, new money. They're all Chinese. Like, I had teachers in grad school that were sucking up to the Chinese kids because they knew that they were new money, like real estate money, and the teachers, like the American teachers, wanted to suck up to them because they knew their families would, like, help them build something in China. So
that also deals with the greed in America too, though. America has a greed problem that's far worse than everywhere else.
Where are the ghost cities? I didn't see any ghost city in China. None. Like, I really didn't. I went throughout the entire thing, even places that were poor. I did not see one ghost city. Nothing like you see in America. I did not see one ghost city in China. Never. I'm just saying, like, what I saw. So, I did see poor people. Like, it's not like there aren't poor people. I saw people that, you know, collected trash for money, stuff like that. But I did not see one ghost city.
I mean, very easily. If the United States like dispersed their population across and built it up the same way, say, China has done, then you could easily probably have 600, 700 million people in the U.S. But the United States only builds up certain areas and only builds them up for certain groups of people. They don't really care if their whole city is doing well. They only care if their wealthy area is doing well and most of their business people are doing great. They don't care about, but under a certain level, America doesn't care.
Hamza, I was in Eastern China and in Western China, and Western China was poor, but there's still not one ghost city, and they were rapidly developing their infrastructure. And even like in the super rural places, they had brand new roads. Like this is not, you know, like people. I think people are really underestimating what's going on there. They think, oh, it's just as shitty as India. No, it is not. They are rapidly developing their roads, their trains, their infrastructure, and their entire economy. And there's no ghost cities. So, like, and they have, like, a sense of economic optimism that we haven't had here since, like, the 50s and 60s. So, like, it's not true. And they're even, like, kind of encouraging people from the most populated areas to, like, go into the rural areas to, like, build up some of these smaller cities. So I guess, like, similar to the way when Detroit was built up or whatever, you had, like, kind of an industry there, and, like, you know, they wanted people to go to Detroit to work in the auto manufacturing or whatever. So they would, like, try to make it attractive and appealing, or, you know, like, advertise jobs so that people would go there.
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about all this ghost city stuff, so and it's kind of not relevant. So let's go on. Let's get on to the next topic. So, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention or not, but well, of course everybody's been paying attention. It's been everywhere. What's going on with the whole China? Not China. Sorry, still stuck on that. Israel. Well, since we've kind of went long, I won't show a bunch of clips like I was gonna do. I might throw up while we talk. I might throw up a couple of images from, I think it was like Richard Medhurst. He had a good thread showing some of the stuff that's going on in Israel. But what I saw and some of the stuff that I heard is in the last days of Ramadan, there was a lot of attacks, gas, and like literally the IDF, or the IOF, as I like to call it, the Israeli Offense Force, was going and beating the hell out of a lot of people in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That pissed a lot of people off there, and what goes on there just on a regular basis, especially with the settlers and the taking of land and I think he was 25-year-old autistic man who was brutally murdered there, and it's so much stuff that the Palestinians are dealing with. They decided to launch a secret raid into Israel. Last numbers I heard something like 150 to 200 Israelis are dead, and something like 150 whatchamacallit. Oh no, I think it was 200 to 300. Sorry, 200 to 300. Sorry, I'm getting focused. Getting distracted on the chat. Jira, Yonina, people, who cares about ghost cities in China? It doesn't fucking matter. Stop talking about that shit. Let's get back to
I think we were referring to different things. She's talking about like new construction that like people like haven't moved into,
but
kind of. Like they do.
The point of the
But what I'm talking about is abandoned
nothing to
cities.
do with any of that. Their economy is doing what it's doing
Yeah.
regardless of how many people are there. So I'm like, you guys
Right.
are arguing about like little tiny details.
Like what I was saying is like you don't see something like what you see in Detroit or Camden, New Jersey, where it looks like it used to be a place that was thriving and it's now like vacant, you know, with like drug trade corridors and that's it. Like you don't see that. You don't like that. You don't see that. You might see there. I did see places that it was like a rural place with like roads that seem to go to nowhere. You know, like because they're doing like westward expansion, so like with the idea that they'll be able to develop the economy, but first they have to build the road. So then there'll be places where it's like there's a really nice road, but like the economy hasn't like caught up to that yet. If that makes sense. Kind of like the bridge to nowhere that they were trying to build in Alaska. Like there's stuff like that in China where it's like really great road and really great building, but like there's nothing. But even it does work because like the more roads they build, the more businesses that set up shop by the road. So it like in the long term it does work. Just maybe not right away. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt your spiel, Marcus.
No. I'm like, we're talking about a place that has 1.4 billion people. I don't want to hear anything about ghost cities. They got fucking way more people than we do. So it doesn't matter if there's people in every corner of the city. What does that have to do with them building that they're building up and that our economy is doing great? Let's not lose the forest for one tree. Let's focus on the big issue here. So what I was saying is what's going on with Israel right now is Hamas decided an overnight attack in there. They do have somewhere, I believe I heard like 50 to 75 hostages. So yes, they do have Israeli hostages, and there is last I heard, easily over 200 Israelis dead. Last year, there hasn't been this kind of numbers of deaths going on dealing with between Hamas and Israel, especially not this high of casualties on the Israeli side. Typically, there is bombing sirens that are going off in like Tel Aviv, but most of the time they don't reach it all the way to Jerusalem. They have been reaching all the way to Jerusalem, and there's also been like some of the gates have been torn down. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the videos of what's going on over there, how crazy it looks. Let me pull up Richard's let me pull up his thread because it's wild, some of the shit that's going on over there right now. So let's just click on it and let me share my screen. This is I got the feeling that we're probably about to see a massive amount of people who are about to be dead soon, very soon. Israel does not take kind to dang it, I didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Figure the screen's buffering. Damn it. Damn it. Didn't mean to do that. Oh, well, I'll just type him up. It's still towards the top of his thread. So if the computer will catch up. Catch up. There we go. So this right here is a video of Hamas dropping a drone, dropping of explosive, taking out a tank. And right here, this video I thought was like wild to see. turn on the volume. The Israeli settlers running. These were Israeli settlers that were running. This right here, it's bulldozer, which is tearing down one of the walls into Israel. Allah yarham al-jidar. Allahu Akbar. Aywa. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Aywa. Allahu Akbar. This right here, they actually took one of the Palestinians parade around on captured Israeli vehicle. There's a lot going on. Here, Palestinian unit captured many Israeli soldiers. Here, right here, is pictures of a raid. Oh, damn it, microphone died. Here, right here, is pictures of a raid on the ground inside of Israel. This is like the little fan things. This almost looks like some kind of, like he says here, it's like a Hollywood movie. They're taking these little fan contraption things and flying in for their mission inside of Israel. Here, you can see that they're taking away their jets and they're trying to move the jets so that they're not in the way of they're not in the way of being attacked or taken out. Here's more Israelis who were near the mosque who were running. And this, very interesting. No, this was his speech. Let's go ahead and play it.
לא בסבבים, במלחמה. הבוקר חמאס פתח במתקפת פתע רצחני נגד מדינת ישראל ונגד אזרחיה. אנחנו בתוך זה משעות הבוקר המוקדמות. כינסתי את ראשי מערכת הביטחון. הנחיתי קודם כל לטהר את היישובים מהמחבלים שחדרו פנימה. הפעולה הזאת מתבצעת בשעות הללו. במקביל הוריתי לבצע גיוס מילואים נרחב ולהשיב מלחמה שערה בעוצמה ובהיקף שהאויב לא הכיר. האויב ישלם מחיר שהוא לא ידע מותו. אני קורא בינתיים לכל אזרחי ישראל להישמע בקפדנות להנחיות הצבא, להנחיות פיקוד העורף. אנחנו במלחמה ואנחנו ננצח בה. אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
A couple more I wanted to show. There's one in particular I was looking for. Oh, not that one. It's more the attack, but it was one in particular. Oh, this is the one I want to show you. Palestinians have captured a top Israeli commander, General Nimrod Aloni. This is a big deal. Aloni heads the Dep Corps of Israel's special forces, meant to operate behind enemy lines. And he says, talk about caught with your pants down, literally. So this general is one of the generals who...
So they let Marcus real quick. Marcus real quick. So they let him put on his glasses and took him outside like that. I seen another hostage video. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to say that I think all of this is more theater. Not that this stuff isn't happening, but there's probably more than meets the eye than this. There are so many things happening. There are so many things happening that just don't make any goddamn sense as it relates just to the Israeli side of things. The lack of security where it's supposed to be, and amongst other things that I would not be surprised at all if this was done. We know these people who we're talking about, we know sacrifice is a big thing in their culture, and they have no problem sacrificing people. You know what I mean? We cannot leave that alone because you have, just like how we saw in 9/11, you have to have 3,000 people die in New York so that you have a reason to occupy Afghanistan and Iraq. Whatever they want to do in the West Bank and or Gaza, this will just make it okay. Because, and this goes into some of the topics we had, we saw stupid fucking comments from both RFK and Cornel West, which in my mind tell me we don't need to pay attention to either RFK or Cornel West. They both got online to say, oh my God, this extreme violence, this extreme retaliation, we just need peace in the region. Marcus, if I'm slapping Lucy up all crazy, and you come and punch me in the face and they say, well, damn, you shouldn't have punched him in the face like that. I mean, come on. You understand what I'm saying? The shit, people need to really take, what's the word? Get your emotions out of it for a second. Pause. Relax. Look at the situation. They said something like 5,000, they said something like 5,000 rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel. 5,000 what?
5,000 to 7,000.
Okay. Again, for an area that is highly under surveillance, they measure the fucking like nutritional content of the food that they allow into Gaza and West Bank. They have spies. They have spies everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? They have spies everywhere. They have agents everywhere. You're telling me that they had no idea whatsoever that people were getting ready to fire 5,000 to 7,000 rockets into the country? Yeah, dog. Nah, son. This seems like this. Yo, they want the land. They want the people out of there. This is the perfect excuse for big bank to take little bank, if we will.
I think you're right. And I also, I don't think it benefits the Palestinians because they're under siege, right? So, like, the retaliation against them would be so bad. But Kim.com, I don't agree with him on everything, but he wrote an interesting tweet on this. So Hamas is funded by Qatar and Iran. He only mentions Iran, but it's also funded by Qatar. And he says, understanding the Hamas attack on Israel. Iran is aiming for confrontation, Iran and Qatar maybe, I don't know, with Israel and the U.S. The success of Russia in Ukraine is encouraging Iran to undo decades of hostile U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. A bankrupt U.S. government has just been invited to another war. The timing is opportunistic. The U.S. government is forced to print trillions of dollars as it struggles to raise new debt. Another war would lead to a significant increase in inflation and an accelerated economic decline of the U.S. If Iran mines the Strait of Hormuz, the global energy crisis would become critical. The Biden admin has used the majority of U.S. oil reserves to stabilize domestic oil prices. Iran can increase the pain for the U.S. And then it says Ukraine is turning into a major defeat for U.S. and NATO. A new front in the Middle East would accelerate decline. The U.S. government and the Western partners can't afford it. Russia and China would benefit the most. Iran and Qatar, I guess, which they won't mention because they have they hate Iran more because they're sanctioning Iran, right? They're not sanctioning Qatar because they have economic ties to Qatar. They understand this and they're playing into the hands of their partners. So I think what's happening is really not I think this is you're right, and the problem is people are getting overexcited. They're free Palestine, but it's not going to be good for Palestinians because the retaliation is going to be really bad. But it might. I do think there's other countries in the Middle East that it's it might be good for them because they have been wanting to, like, these other countries, they also don't like Israel because Israel is the partner of the U.S., you know, so I do think there's other countries that are more behind this than just the Palestinians. I mean, yeah.
Well,
Lucy, let me jump in real quick.
okay.
Of course, yes, there are other players involved beyond just beyond Palestine, right? You know, there's several countries, but again, at the end of the day, if we look over even the last, let's just say, 160 days or so, right? Even the last 6 months, all the stories coming out of that region over the last 6 months has been a PR disaster for our number one ally, right? So bad press. You're having problems with the government. You're beefing internally. You know, You have a lot of things going on. What would be a solution for that? To make yourself a victim. You see, because everybody loves and feels bad for a victim, regardless what it is. Before you even hear the story, if me and Marcus were in a relationship and I was the first one to go to the internet and say Marcus abused me, y'all gonna hate Marcus, or vice versa. Or Lucy, same with me and you. If I run to the internet and if you ran to the internet and say, oh, Chris, oh, we hate him and we love you. So it always is about appearing as a victim. So they had to allow something to happen. They must have gotten like new lawnmowers, and they must want to go into Gaza Strip and test out the lawnmowers because the shit is crazy how this just happened the way it did. It wasn't only the rockets being fired, but the border crossings. Pay attention to that. So you're telling me a country like Israel that takes as much money from us and the international community as it does, you're telling me that they moved their forces on the Gaza border and put all of them onto the West Bank border so that people could not come. They put all the soldiers onto the West Bank, and they left the Gaza Strip open so that people could come in and start kidnapping and killing and memeing people. Nah, that does not sound right for a people as paranoid and as cautious and who takes such care in their preparation of their defense. You're telling me that they just all of a sudden forgot to leave people on the border? Yeah, okay. Look, what do they say? You have to crack a couple eggs to make an omelet? Just like what Marcus said, smoking. Thank you, Marcus. You see, that's why Marcus my dog, because he found the shit. You see what I'm saying? I didn't see any of this.
I just put it up.
Oh,
there.
Lucy, if you found this good shit, Lucy. But this is what I'm saying. We all have to be mindful. This is a country that handles our intelligence, or on some level handles our intelligence. They spy. They're amongst the world's greatest spies. You're telling me they didn't know, or they didn't have nobody in Gaza who was gonna say, yo, dog, we about to get this shit lit. Please. I don't believe that. Whatever happened, Israel had a hand in it. They sacrificed who they needed to sacrifice for the greater good of their overall desire, which is to get rid of everybody who doesn't come from Europe in the West Bank and in Gaza. They want West Bank and Gaza to be full of Europeans. You can call them Jewish. Jewish is their religion, but that's not where they're from. These are all either Europeans or North Americans, and maybe some South Americans. Go ahead, Marcus.
I mean, hell, Netanyahu himself is from Philly. So, I mean, it's just, I think, or am I wrong? Or is it Naftali Bennett who's from Philly and Bibi is from somewhere else in the U.S.? But, I mean, a good chunk of them are, and that's the thing. I don't know for a fact, and I know we'll never have the proof. But they say, well, they do have an Iron Dome, but I can tell you with weapon systems, there's no way any weapon system is going to catch everything. And the stuff that's gotten through hasn't been much. I mean, it's not like they're getting like rained on like crazy. That's not what's happening. But it is pretty curious how there's normally patrols 24/7 all over the place. And all of a sudden, this was allowed to, I don't know. It just seems weird. It seems weird. Where I want to disagree with the where I disagree with what's his name? Dang it, where was that at?
Kim.com?
Yeah, Kim.com. Where I disagree with him is he's trying to put it off on Iran. And I'm like, no, that's bullshit. Don't try to put Iran on this. Iran, if this was Iran would have went about it way differently than this, because Iran has weapons that could do more than this. I heard reports about some of these weapons coming from as far away as Ukraine. So I don't know how Ukrainian weapons somehow got into Palestinians' hands. Weapons which came from the U.S. to get to Ukraine and somehow end up in Palestinians' hands. I don't understand that part. But they've been sneaking into Iran right and left, killing civilians. Iran is still pissed off about that one general that was killed by the U.S. Iran is not on team. They're not part of this like willing participant. Iran wants to see Israel go just as much as everybody else. But it's not because they just randomly have some bad feeling about Israel. I look at it like this. If one of your friends said that she was engaged 10 times, right? And she couldn't get married. At what point would you be like, all right, so you've been engaged 10 times, but out of these 10 dudes, none of them want to marry you? But it's always the other guy. It's the guy. It has nothing to do with your friend. Your friend is doing nothing at all. This is what I see with Israel. It's never Israel. Israel never does anything wrong. Israel's never has no hand in anything that's going on. And everybody is turning a blind eye to Israel. That's the reason why, like, when I talked about RFK, these RFK stands, if you want a president who's even more beholden to Israel than Biden is, then RFK is your man. RFK will literally sanction them to wipe out them. I mean, they can do it flagrantly as they want to. With RFK, he ain't gonna say a damn word, and he's gonna continue to fund them and send them money. You got the Bidens and the Obamas that are kind of like, hey man, you can keep doing your stuff, but we gotta pretend, wink, wink, nod, that this is not what's going on. RFK is not going to do that. RFK is just going to be like, carte blanche, do what you want to do. And that's why I tell people RFK is even more dangerous. Zionism is, yes, definitely. But who was that? Right at the beginning of the show, Baba asked me a question. I'm going to put it on the screen and I'm going to answer it. Said, were Jews or Israelites God's first chosen? First Gentiles were welcomed by fulfillment of Christ. God's son was Jewish. According to the Bible, the Israelites or Jews are synonymous, same people. Well, technically, you can be an Israelite and not be a Jew, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, yes, according to the Bible, and still according to the Bible, they're the ones who are supposed to spread the light to the Gentiles. As you can see, this group of people are not spreading light to anybody. So you got to start questioning, either the Bible is BS or these people are not who they say they are. And
also, they do have like I wouldn't be it wouldn't shock me like after seeing that tweet, you know, where they're just like, we're not gonna rescue the Israeli hostages. So they want to invade Gaza, right? That's their goal. They do have the victimization excuse now, and I wouldn't be surprised if they themselves had provoked that attack. Like, they have a history of doing this where they'll do an attack and then they'll blame it on the Arabs. Like, they were involved in 9/11 and they blamed it on somebody else. They did the USS Liberty. When they sunk the USS Liberty, they blamed it on Egypt, and it was them. And then they told the US, they were like, it was Egypt, you know. So this is like their thing. That this is like their tactic. That they've been doing it for years, and you know, nobody says anything like, oh, maybe it's not just the Palestinians. Maybe they pay them off. You know, it's like the same shit with the protests where they like put the bricks, and the bricks like always like magically materialize at these protests. Like, if it's not, obviously those are videos of Palestinians doing these things, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had a role in either like egging it on or giving them materials to do, like giving them, like, what about that vehicle where they were just like knocking over the fence? How did the Palestinians, who are supposedly under siege and like heavy surveillance all the time, get access to that enormous tow truck to just like mow down that fence?
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
They've been caught before taking Arab Israelis and them pretending to be Hamas. They've been busted doing that.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Like, I do think there's something behind it, but at the same time, like, the Arab countries are celebrating and stuff. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe there's like a genuine protest, and they're also like giving them materials. Like, who knows? I don't know.
I would say that I don't rule anything out. That's what I would say. That's the best way. One last. I'm going to a little thing. I would say don't rule anything out, but also at the same time, keep in mind who stands to benefit. Of course, these Arab nations, plenty of them are going to be happy because they don't like Israel. And so if they can see anything bad happen to their bully, they're going to be happy to see it. Now, do they always know that their bully is sometimes self-inflicting wounds so they can get sympathy? Or it's not even sympathy. I believe that, and there's been, I don't know if you guys follow like some of the religious stuff that goes on in there about them trying to get the red heifer. And if you guys don't understand like some of the rituals, that's fine. But the red heifer and they want to rebuild the third temple. And so in order for you to build the third temple, the Israelis, I mean, the Palestinians have to be out of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That has to happen. So at some point, even though Jordan has custody of it, their goal is they need them out of there to build the third temple so that the Messiah can return according to their understanding of Scripture. Because, well, even Christians will understand that the third temple comes when the third temple is synonymous with the Messiah. The difference with Israelis is Israelis think that they need to make it all happen, versus Christians believe, no, the Messiah is going to do that. It's not about us making this happen. That's the reason why, and that goes into, they focus more on the Talmud than what the Bible or Torah says at all. And so when you go off this other route, I'll leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. They're playing off of a different script that most people are not privy to and not understanding. And if you don't pay attention and understand, like, what is his name? That's his name. Jebulon. For those people who don't know who Jebulon is, Jebulon ties back to what would be, some people argue, the god of Masons. And Jebulon is a mixture of 3 different gods that they put together. And it's deeply entrenched with this Jebulon figure and Kabbalah. And so Masons basically are doing a mixture of different religions and weighing heavily on the Bible and Kabbalah. Just letting you guys know that. So that's what this all ties back to when you look to these people at the top. It gets kind of wild. That's my little tangent. Sorry. Anybody want to hop in?
Check out that picture I just sent you. You're gonna laugh.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it on the screen.
Well, I hope you laugh. Maybe not.
Chris, these your picture.
It's the Empire State today.
Of course, making the victims. I'm telling
Marcus, you ain't lie. You know that Marcus, you ain't lie. That's my people. That's the city. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, this is some. Again, like I said, we'll find out later. We'll find out years later, maybe months or weeks. You know, who knows? But we're gonna find out that whatever happened on October 7th or 6th, whatever it was, you know, was not the brainchild of the average Palestinian. You understand what I'm saying? Look, you know what it is, Marcus? The majority of Americans, and I'm sorry I have to do it by color, just because I'm from New York, so I'm very descriptive. Let me just keep it a buck. The average white American doesn't know shit. They're not fully versed in the underside of their system, right? So again, we can take any topic. AIDS pops up in the black community around the world. White folks was too easy to accept the fact that niggas just all of a sudden started fucking monkeys, right? COVID. White people was too easy to believe that Chinese people were just biting off Batman at a fucking market, at a fresh market, right? Now here we are with this. They're gonna believe that the poor people, the people who are surveilled, the people who are limited in everything, manage to smuggle in all of this weaponry and equipment. And to Lucy's point, yo, they had equipment. If you look at that yellow looked like it was brand new or very close to new, or it looked like that construction equipment was not even used a lot. That looked like the same brand new shit they just took off the fucking trailer and they just used it to come and do this. I need people to use their common sense. Again, it's the same thing like the war on drugs in the communities where you and I grew up, Marcus. There ain't a motherfucking coca plant near us. We ain't got no goddamn ether in the hood. You understand what I'm saying? We didn't come up with crack on our own, but yet the majority of the United States believed that that's what we was doing in our neighborhoods. And when we told them, like, yo, nah, son, this ain't us. This is the government. There's a conspiracy going on here. They didn't want to listen to us. Now, fucking 30 years later, they want to watch documentaries, and all of a sudden now they see it. You stupid motherfuckers, why don't you just listen when the people who are grinding, struggling, and dying behind this are telling you shit? It's the same thing with Ukraine. Same fucking thing with Ukraine. We're telling people, yo, this is a money laundering operation. And you have stupid black people like a Talib Kweli saying, oh, you support Nazis. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Kweli said that?
Yeah, he told this.
Oh, Talib Kweli is the biggest fucking idiot, the biggest fucking entertaining idiot on the planet. He got kicked off of Twitter for whatever bullshit is going on with Twitter. If you check Talib Kweli's Instagram page, it's all fucking Democrat shit.
Oh man.
Yeah, Talib Kweli, he's on the goofy list. He's on the goofy list and he needs his goofy smacked off. He's on the goofy list and needs his goofy smacked off. I'm not rapping, I'm just saying. Hold on, Lucy, because whenever you take it off mute, there's an echo. So just leave it on mute for the moment. But again, please keep in mind this whole issue with Palestine and Israel right now. Nah, son. That's like saying Frank Lucas that's like saying Frank Lucas is the biggest drug dealer at one point in time. Frank Lucas, Nicky Barnes, or whomever you can think of. What's my buddy? Freeway Rick Ross. None of these dudes can be the biggest drug dealer in the country. You know why? Because they ain't got no connects like the CI motherfucking A. They the biggest drug dealers. So again, if you believe that crack and all this stuff was created out of the black neighborhood and it spread nationwide from black people, no, that is not how it happened.
Also, they just had it ready to go. Like, they had the... Okay, when did this start happening? Yesterday or today?
This morning.
This morning, and
sixth,
tonight, the Empire State Building is already ready. It's like ready in the colors of blue and white. You know, like you need at least a few hours of advance notice to prepare the lights. I'm sorry about my bad acoustics. It's just because I have to get some headphones. Yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to, and like the whole Ukraine thing, whenever they put the flag on the Empire State Building, which they did with Ukraine, it's because they have the whole thing planned out, like the whole war. They don't just put the flag on the Empire State Building willy-nilly. Like only two countries have gotten the flag on the Empire State Building. Ukraine and Israel. Nobody else gets their flag on the Empire State Building, and definitely not with like not even 1 day of advance notice. It doesn't make any sense. So like they knew about the attacks that were gonna come. They had to have known.
It's kind of
real quick. Let me jump in. That is because people have fallen for the propaganda from outlets like the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. They have fallen for that propaganda. And they actually believe the bullshit that comes from those outlets. The problem is the people who claim to be victims. Yo, you know what? If you the victims I have known in real life from whatever it is, the people who are real victims never run around wanting to be victims. In fact, they want to be quiet about the shit. They want shit to stay low. They want to try to live their life and get past whatever traumatic shit happened to them. They don't run around saying, hey, look at me. I was victimized. I was victimized. You know who does that? Fake motherfuckers. And I use the word fake on purpose because there's a lot of fake shit that goes on with the particular group of people. And if that flies over your head, I suggest that you go ahead and do your research to understand why I'm using the word fake with this particular group of people. And you can get mad at me all you want, but it is what it is. These Europeans are going to European wherever they go, whether they're stationed in North America or they're stationed in the Middle East, they're going to European. Okay, let me repeat that. Europeans, wherever they decide to place themselves, whether South America, North America, or the Middle East, they're going to act the same way every single time. If you fall for this stuff and you want to light blue and white lights for the state of Israel, you're an idiot and you're a moron and you're the spoon in the knife drawer. Congratulations. You're not that sharp. I'm trying to let you know what we're most likely witnessing in the Middle East right now was a sacrifice of a few Europeans so that they can just go ahead and bring out the big lawnmower to get rid of the rest of the people there. And if Hamas, there's Zionist ties within Hamas, because a lot of the time Hamas be doing shit that the Israelis would love for them to do. Okay? Again, let me repeat that. Hamas does things that the Israeli leadership would love for them to do so that they can respond in the way that they have been wanting to respond. Okay? Don't let it fly over your head. It's not always a conspiracy theory. Just look. Where was, just for shits and giggles, just let your fingers do a search. Where was the border patrol in Gaza when they started breaching the border? Not firing the rockets, but breaching the border. Okay? Go ahead, Marcus. Let this rock.
I'm just, somebody asked me something about Hiram Abiff and some Masonic secrets, and this is a high-level Mason who was oh dang, did I pause it? Dang it, it does not want to play. He was dang it, come on.
God of this world, who the Masons give their praise to. Jack also goes on to reveal the great lights of Masonry, which he calls a ritual, and further explains who Masonry truly serves.
I've explained to you previously was an explanation of the letter G, which you have found above the master's chair. What I will give you now is actual ritual taught by every Masonic lodge within the United States. The three great lights of Masonry are the Holy Bible, the square, and the compasses. The Holy Bible we take for the rule and guide of our faith, the square to square our actions, and the compasses to circumscribe our desires and keep our passions within due bounds. The three lesser lights are the sun, the moon, and the master of the lodge. As the sun rules the day and the moon governs the night, so should the worshipful master endeavor to rule and govern his lodge with equal regularity. In all of their teachings, they talk about seeking light. The word of God tells me there's only one light. And
let me skip it. I'll show you. This is a ceremony they're talking about Hiram Abiff. And like they get them down there and they have to they pretend like they're cut open their chest and all these different vows they do.
This is why, Marcus, this is why so much of the stuff they do is homosexual in nature, because as a man, there's very few things that you care about people saying about you. If someone says you're an asshole, whatever. If someone says you cheat, whatever. If someone says you're rude, whatever. You don't really care about that. But if someone says, yo, Marcus taking in his booty, clearly it's going to be, wait. This is why they have these little rituals and shit like that, so they can compromise you and get you in compromising positions. And personally, you don't want anybody to ever know about this stuff. This is how they work and operate. It's so obvious. You don't even have to take a deep dive into this shit. Just look at it. None of this shit makes sense that we're seeing or hearing. And it's always a bunch of men. How you always having organizations and there's no women involved? Look, I love my dudes. I want to hang out with my homies and shit like that. But it's not going to be sword fighting. No, we're not sword fighting. Oh, no. There need to be some women over there.
I'll take your will not. Give me secrets of a master mason or a life on this spot. My life, but not the secrets.
Can you turn up the volume
Yeah, that's bad.
on the video?
I'll send it to you. But what he's saying is, he's saying Hiram, like he passes around 3 times. He pretends that he's Hiram Abiff. And I'll explain Hiram Abiff in a minute. But he's supposedly being Hiram Abiff back in the biblical days, you know, at the building of Solomon's temple. And these 3 men are trying to force the secrets out of him. The first man attacks him and he's like, no, I'd rather die than give up the secrets. Second man attacks him. He's like, no, I'd rather die than give up the secrets. The third man attacks him. He says, no, I'd rather die and give up the secrets. And then he's mock killed to be reborn as a third-degree Mason. So that's the process that's going on.
We heard our Grandmaster
Cornel West is dead to me. Did you see his response?
Oh Lord, my God,
Look.
no help for the widow's son.
Did any of you see Cornell's response?
And see if it can be raised.
I saw it, and like people were freaking out that it wasn't like revolutionary enough, but I don't understand why they thought that he was. Like, I feel like if you're voting for a West, then like the most you can expect him to do is maybe something economic in the United States, or you know what I mean, like something like that. I wasn't like anybody that's like end Israel is not going to make it into office. I don't understand what people are expecting. I don't know if that makes sense, or if that's like.
So let me say this, right? Let me say this. Cornel West's response included barbaric violence in the Middle East. He didn't say who's doing the barbaric violence. He did say it was a vicious Israeli occupation. However, where I draw the problem, where I cut Cornel West off completely, he said the ugly Palestinian retaliation. Cornel West, you are dead to me. You don't exist. You were cool. He called the resistance, let's just say it was legitimate resistance. Let's just say the people in Gaza really did smuggle in all that shit, and they constructed all these weapons of war, and this was their response to the bully. You call their response ugly retaliation? Just think about that. That's a long stretch. His name should be Cornel Stretch West, because that is a stretch. If I'm punching you all in your face, Marcus, and you decide and you manage to grab a bat and you smash me in my face with a bat, that's not ugly retaliation. That is you standing up and defending yourself from these boule ass niggas. And for those of you who have been watching this show for any amount of time, we have been talking to you about these black people with these Greek organizations. And yeah, Cornel West talks the good brother talks a good one. You know, the brother. Oh, my good brother Biden. Oh, good brother this one. Good brother Barack. Good brother Trump. I come from the spirit of the. Shut the fuck up, B. Okay? It's like I always say, Marcus, about the Batman line. You die and be a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Here we are with Cornel West. Do you understand? This is a black man this is a black man who has been in the United States for several decades now, who has seen far more ugliness than you or I have seen, Marcus, or most of the people in the chat. He's calling the retaliation to degradation, to genocide, to to rape, this, da-da-da-da-da. He's calling that response ugly retaliation? Really? You are doing the worst to me. You are maiming me. You're taking my family from me. You're embarrassing me. You're emasculating me as a man. And when we finally, let's just say we finally decide to say, yo, you know what, we're going to do something. You're going to say my retaliation is ugly? Yo, Cornel, go sit down in the fucking corner, B. And to the people who decide to contribute money to either Cornel West, you're foolish. JFK, I don't have as much smoke for. Not JFK, RFK. I don't have as much smoke for RFK because, he's white. He's a Kennedy. He's wealthy. I don't expect him to have the same mindset that a Cornel West would have. But for the RFK, it's not so much smoke towards him. It's smoke towards the people who have been telling me that we need to get behind him. Because if you are so fervently a fan of the Zionists and the Israeli government, that also means you don't like niggas like us. Quite honestly. Because every bad portrayal of us in the media, whether it is warranted or not warranted, those people have dual citizenship a lot of the times in Hollywood and throughout the media landscape. We have to understand who we are dealing with. And if you don't understand this, then what I'm saying is going to sound crazy. And you're just like, yo, that Chris dude be just talking shit, going off on tangents. But if you understand, it's all the same grouping of people that we're talking about.
Sorry, I got more smoke for RFK than him.
No, go ahead, Marcus. Go ahead, man.
He's saying what he trying to say, whatever he need to say to get elected. I get that. RFK is going to do whatever he needed to do to get elected. He's saying the political thing, but at least he'll still push for the Palestinians. Cornell. RFK is completely. Hold on. Let me put this on the screen. This is a little quick search. RFK.
I agree with Marcus. A little. I mean, I understand what Sai is saying, but I also agree with Marcus because I feel like okay, there's like my like, for example, I feel like it's different if you're talking as an activist than as somebody that's running for office. And as somebody that's running for office, like in the same way the progressive socialists or whatever are getting smoked right now because they don't want to say that like the guy that murdered somebody is a black man, you know? I feel like as somebody that's in Congress, you're representing everybody. You're not just representing black people. So as somebody that's running for Congress, you have to be like, yes, I don't like violence on any sides because, like, let's say, for example, like, I'm against American imperialism, but that doesn't mean I want violence against me. Like, you know, if all the countries in the world rose up and attacked the United States, I don't want violence against me, in theory. So I feel like it is a safer position if you're running for office to condemn violence on all sides. And I don't think there's going to be like a good way to satisfy the left if you're running for office in that sense. But I do think Cornell is kind of lame in a lot of ways. Like, he's been doing all of this milquetoast stuff, you know, calling Putin a thug, you know, saying that Iran is going through some kind of feminist revolution, which they're not. So, you know, all this shit that Cornel West is doing. But I also understand that he is running for office. He's not an activist. And, like, I feel like he knows he has to moderate his statements because otherwise he has a low enough chance as it is. I don't think it would happen. That's my opinion. But,
and see, here's another thing. Another thing about Kennedys, a lot of people don't know the Kennedy name goes back farther than just Kennedys. They go back to the O'Canadians, and he's part of the House of Cavendish, and he's tied in, and he went through like Jesuit order training. Schools, and he's part of a fraternity. And then he kisses up to Israel right now. His security detail is funded by Mossad. I can't trust that.
And then everybody's like, oh, RFK needs security. It's like, dude, don't you? He has security. He has the best security in the world. Don't you notice? Like, all of his talking points should be telling you who his security is. Like, what?
You say one thing wrong, he's done.
Right. So he knows, like, it's pretty obvious to me that that's his security. That he does not need security from Joe Biden because he has his security. So I don't know what Americans are so stupid. Like, what is it? Like, it's just, and even if he did, okay, imagine that he was truly a full rebel that was, going to shake up the American system. Why would Joe Biden help you with security? Like, he obviously wouldn't want you in office if you were shaking things up that much, so that means that you have to pay or obtain your own security. Why are you asking Joe Biden for security?
Like, I'm not going to help you stay alive to take that job. Let's see. Let me copy this. And I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to put that video.
Go ahead, Marcus.
I'm going to put this video in the chat. And then, like Choosy, did you see that? I put out about his Jesuit order. I know Choosy would like that. And then I'm going to put this in the private chat for you too, Lucy. That way you'll be able to catch that video. I got so much stuff. We'll talk out offline and go more into this stuff, but it's far deeper than people really get. It's deep and simple at the same time, honestly. It's very deep but very simple. Once you understand a key couple of things, it all clicks and start making a lot of damn sense. And everything gets very predictable, and you're able to trace the money and see what's actually going on. But getting past these couple of blinders first for a lot of people, or not even blinders necessarily. Sometimes it's not blinders. Sometimes it's just you've never thought about it, so you don't think about it, and and you've been instinctively told to look away. Yeah, the Jesuit order has no plan to police themselves because they feel they are intrinsic. Exactly. But yeah, it has gotten late. It's 3:45 on the dial, and I know it's super late for y'all on the East Coast and for those who are out further. So we are about to get on out of here. That's all I got. The Dr. Shiva interview has been rescheduled to the 28th. Hopefully I can get in there and have a bunch of good stuff that'll be outside of the typical stuff y'all see in this interview. Lucy, you got anything you want to say?
Peace out, Hamza.
No, nothing else other than I think I think Chris and you are totally right about this being pre-planned and orchestrated to some degree. It'll be interesting to see what actually comes out after this, but we do know that like the hostages and stuff, they don't want to save them, so obviously they want to. They don't care about the hostages, so they knew that they were going to sacrifice them from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we can leave it there.
Look, at the end of the Marcus, if we're going to do a fair assessment of the how can I say? If we're going to do a fair assessment of the public sentiment towards Israel, the last several months have not been good for them. Or not just several. The last year and a half, 2 years, whatever, it has not looked good for Israel at all. How do you make yourself look good after killing people behind a gate? You have all these images of people who are missing feet because that's what they aim for. And the public here in the United States is like, yo, you know what? Maybe Israel is a little heavy-handed. Then you have this happen, so all the sympathy can now shift back to your side. So all of the things that you were already doing and wanting to do, it only becomes easier to get away with it going forward. Keep that in mind. Obviously, we can't know now, but look at next week, week after, 3 weeks later, 6 months later. That will give you the answer if what Marcus and I said in October 2023 was on point.
Yeah. there was a question out here that everybody asked, and I'll try to make it quick. Hiram Abiff. Hiram Abiff is he's in the Bible as somebody who was familiar with kind of like an actual Mason. But some people believe that name that was in the Bible may be incorrect, especially when you do the translations, and that it is an anagram for somebody else. Some people will say that goes all the way back to literal Nimrod, and the secret societies trace their belief systems and the whole building off of the Tower of Babel. So that's what that is. Hiram Abiff is only talked about once in the Bible. So in rabbinic literature, he's made out to be a lot more than what he is in the Bible. Is basically just like, hey, I need a guy who's good at building some of this stuff, and basically that's it. He's sent over from the king of Tyre to help out, but in rabbinic literature and in Masonry, he's made up to be this great, powerful man who was really, really important, and he's a king and all this extra shit that's just not anywhere else. So that fits with Freemasonry. It doesn't really add up to what the book actually talks about, and so hopefully that answers that question that y'all were asking there. Just happened. Uh-oh. What is this? What do we got? What we got? Let me see. Hold on. Let me put it on the screen. Ah, damn. Come on, computer. Stop freezing. Nikki Haley. Oh, Lord. What is she about to say?
Kind of take this in for a second. Just imagine that here the Israelis woke up and communities were bombarded, families were murdered, women and children were taken hostage, dragged through the streets, the elderly were taken. All of this has happened in front of everyone, on top of thousands of rockets that hit Israel. This should be personal for every woman and man in America. Why? Because when they did this surprise attack, when they took these hostages, when they murdered these families, they were celebrating. And what were they celebrating? They were saying death to Israel, death to America. This is not just an attack on Israel. This is an attack on America because they hate us just as much. And what we have to understand is this is the reason that we have to unite around making sure our enemies do not hurt our friends. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends, just like we needed them on 9/11. That's why Ukraine needs us when Russia's doing this. That's why Israel needs us when Hamas and Iran are doing this. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them. Hamas did this. You know Iran's behind it. Finish them. They should have hell to pay for what they've just done.
Okay. She wants World War III. That's what I hear. She wants World War III. That's exactly what I hear there. All right,
Marcus, Nikki Haley just must be something fun in a hotel room for the Zionists. You know what I'm saying? Because if you hear her, if you listen to what she said, she is clearly not even a prostitute, because a prostitute gets paid for their services. She doesn't even get paid. She's like a concubine, and even lower than a concubine. Do you understand what I'm saying? For you to be that brown to be saying this and to say finish them. What is this, a Mortal Kombat around? We playing Mortal Kombat? Finish him. I mean, what are we talking about? Yo, people have given Nikki Haley a chance because she's not white. But again, this is exactly what I talk about. They use non-white people to go the hardest. Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, you name it, Al Sharpton, Cornel West now. you name it, they're always going to embarrass themselves. They're always going to cut their penis and nuts, their testicles off right in front of the world. That's what they're going to do. It happens every single time. Yeah, correct. The only ones who don't cut their sack off are the ones who get killed. But you know what? I'd rather die on my shield. I'd rather die on my feet than to live on my knees, right? Fuck that, dog. Yeah, I ain't with them.
Definitely living
I'm not
on
saying
their
I'm
knees.
about to be on some. I'm not saying I'm about to go out and grab guns and do some wild shit and nothing like that. But you know, at the same time, I'm not gonna be grouped with a Nikki Haley or a Barack Obama or a Cornel West at this point. I'm not. And you know, Cornel West been full of shit for quite a while. You know, people was very quiet on it because they liked what he said. But you know, if he was so much about helping the black people, he wouldn't have been crying about tenure at Princeton and Harvard years ago. He would have taken his ass back to fucking Chicago, and he would have given the kids of Chicago a political education that they needed to help them understand the system and how it works. But no, Cornel West chose to cry about Larry Summers at Harvard. He went to Yale, or was he teaching at Yale or Princeton? One of the two. But at the same time, you can see Cornel West got his super duper education, and he only stayed in the institutions. He didn't move down to the people. Because you know what? He could have said, you know, I got my degree, I got my money, I got my tenure. You know what? I'm good. I've got the financial backing I need. Let me now move to the community that needs me the most. He didn't do that. And you know what? The same criticism can be placed on Noam Chomsky too. Because Noam Chomsky, old ass, is sitting around here and saying, well, you know, Trump is really bad. And, you know, Democrats and the Biden are really... Shut the fuck up, you old man. How about nobody talk to Noam Chomsky no more? If you want to know about Noam Chomsky, read his books. There's no need to talk about him or talk to him anymore. Right? It's the same shit. Look, I'm telling you, I'm about to be Amish. Marcus, I sent you that video where the Amish built the whole barn in 24 hours. That's the kind of shit that I'm about to be on. Fuck the bullshit. As long as I got some food, I got whatever I need. Look, and I could grow what I need. If you understand what I need, when I tell you I'm growing it, you should be able to put 2 and 2 together, right? I don't need much. I don't need a Bentley. I don't want a Mercedes. I don't need none of that high-end shit. I want to eat good. I want to burn good. And that's it. I have good relationships with people. That's it. All that other shit came and passed already. Them fantasies died long time ago. I suggest people kill off their bullshit fantasies as well and deal with reality. You know what I mean? Cornel West, RFK, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, You're all wasting your time. And that's all I want to say. But I got to go. Everybody else, good night. I appreciate it. Lucy, thank you so much for coming. Marcus, you my bro. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow, but I got to run. I'm out of here, everybody.
We'll end on that one. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next week.